Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hello.
Ben Reeves.
Hello.
And Joe Juba.
Yeah.
Hey, we're back in the office, everybody.
Ta-da.
We did it.
What a mysterious time. Everybody had a good break?
Yeah.
Well,
I thought we'd all be dead by now, but
hey, we're still kicking.
still here.
It's very cold.
Plan B.
Here we go. Today was a big day. We launched...
Wait, hold on. Surviving is Plan B?
Yeah, living another day is Plan B.
Plan Ben Reeves. This morning, we announced the new issue of Game Informer. We normally do it on a Tuesday, but it was fun that this week, because of the break, we needed more time for production and all that stuff. So we launched it on Thursday, so we get to air this episode the day that we reveal the new cover story, which is Joe Juba.
It's God of War.
There we go. And this is God of War 4, officially.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No,
Just
no.
God of War.
I was
Straight
like,
up
what did
vanilla
we-
God of War.
Because like
5, technically?
Well, actually, if you're counting, if you just count the number of games, I think it's 8.
And that includes Betrayal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, which it
Thank
probably,
you.
Which
Thank
it
you.
probably shouldn't, but it does.
I think
the
that's
mobile
his
game.
kid's name.
Well, there were
actually.
two PSP games. What was it, Ascension or whatever it is?
Yeah. So there was
game.
God of War's 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Then there were the 2 PSP games, and then there was Ascension, and then there was that mobile game, Betrayal. So this would be 8.
8, technically.
But God of War on PS4 is when we're talking about. So Joe and I went out to the studio, spent some time playing the game, checking it out for a couple days.
Yeah.
Joe, you wrote a big old thing in the issue, big old cover story about it. So we're going to talk about that trip a little bit, about the team's direction, how all that works.
Yeah. If you want all the details about the actual like combat and gameplay, I highly recommend picking up the issue.
There's a Game Informer magazine for that.
Yeah.
But then we're going to have some emails, and then back half of the show, it's kind of a whole lopsided, funky show, because the back half of this show, we recorded in the past. So we recorded it before the break, and that's us talking about our top 10 games from 2017.
Back when we thought we were going to die.
Right, correct.
It's a very fatalistic top 10.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So we recorded it back then just so that we were surprised by each other's lists, which I always think is fun. Maybe some people in the office think that's annoying. But we have myself, Ben Reeves. You're there for that. Dan Tack, that mysterious gentleman. He's here. And Leo Vader, just for a dose of weird in there.
Little
Oh,
wild
man.
card.
And I want to warn viewers ahead of time. If you're watching this podcast, Jeff Cork is in the booth since Leo's out on the table. So Jeff Cork is switching cameras during that segment. It's a rough ride. It's a rough ride. So stay tuned. But that's not till the back half of the show.
Thank you for watching in advance. Right?
Oh, my God. Okay, but for now, God of War. Joe,
Yeah.
here's what's amazing about Game Informer to me. Is we're going out on this trip to check out the new God of War on PS4, and then Joe just casually mentions, yeah, you know, I guess I did a feature back in 2004, 2005 on the first God of War.
Yeah. I have been visiting Sony Santa Monica for like 13, 14 years now.
It's absurd. What other outlet has that kind of longevity where it's like, you know, creators have come and gone, returned, like Cory Barlog, the creative director for this time around.
Yeah.
Joe Juba has maintained a constant visit out to Santa Monica to visit the Sony
That's kinda
studio
fun,
to learn
though.
about God of War.
Wasn't there
Yeah.
something, too, where your subhead for that article was like of God and Monsters or something like that, and people picked that up as like the subhead for the game for a while?
Oh man, yeah, that was. You're right. I totally forgotten about that.
Might have been God of War 2.
I think it was our God. Yeah, it was either the God of War 2 or 3. Did we do a 3 cover? I think. Oh yeah, we did. So for one of those, yeah, I called the story something like Gods and Monsters or something. And then when people started like making like on their sites making SKUs for the game, like they used my story's name as the game's subhead,
Oh my gosh.
which was fun.
I like the idea that the game had the word God in it twice.
Yeah,
God of War.
Colon, Gods and Monsters.
Instead, they get rid of all colon, all anything. This is the phrasing, they call it reimagining, I guess. Soft reboot is too much of a stretch, but it's
Still
still
a sequel, right?
still a sequel.
It's the same Kratos.
It's,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, which is I think why it's not like in a sense it's a reboot because they're like, you know, kind of starting anew conceptually with it. But,
Yeah.
But story wise, it's the same Kratos that
Right.
you know.
New tone, basically.
New tone. And it's interesting talking to them just about the fact that it is the same Kratos. I'm like, what has he been doing? And they say, oh, there's a big gap between this and God of War 3 because I wanted to leave that space open for the future, whether it's, you know, some comics or some Powers-esque TV show. You never
Or-
know, but
Yeah, and I didn't even necessarily get the sense that they were leaving that open for like more to like capitalize on that time frame for different projects as much as just we're not talking about what happened there yet.
yeah.
So, you know, it could be between now and when the game comes out. Maybe they do reveal more about what happens in that time.
Maybe there'll be some flashbacks in the game.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. Yeah, we don't know. And so Kratos went to Scandinavia. I mean, the best mythology. Everybody
Of course.
agrees, right?
Why not?
It is the best, right?
Some lutefisk.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so he went there, and he's trying to hide his family away from the gods. Is kind of the impression here, Joe. Is that your sense of it as well?
That I mean, I don't even know if they've said that much about it, as much as like they were super coy when it comes to details on like what exactly like sets them off on this journey, how Kratos got to where he is, all of that stuff. But I mean, yeah, that's the impression that I got was definitely like Kratos is trying to keep a low profile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the easy, I think, people think God of War. Oh, it's just going to be Kratos going up there and just murdering all of the Norse gods. But they're like, not necessarily. It seems like they're taking a slightly new approach. But, Joe, if you had to put money, he's probably going to kill a Norse god at some point.
I don't think that they were saying that there was no god murder going on.
But he's not on a vengeance quest as far as we know at this point.
Yeah, that's specifically I think the important takeaway is that it's not like not okay, here's my assassination checklist that I need to like go down.
Yeah, he's not Arya Stark.
How did I played all those games, but I don't remember. Like, I know at one point he becomes basically the God of War, and then does he like leave that throne behind? Does he still have all his god powers? Is he still technically a Greek god?
Yeah, that's what's confusing about it.
Can we spoil the original God of War trilogy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, he's half god, like to begin with, because he's Zeus's son.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
So he's
he
really
always
a
had
demigod.
that within him. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so-
he's still a god, even though he left that destroyed world behind, and trying to map out, like, how are you guys doing this? What is this like? We have a rapid fire interview going up tomorrow,
Oh yeah.
which
yeah.
will shed a little bit of
very
light,
good.
and then we dive more into it in video features throughout the month coming up later and stuff. But just, it is a weird nebulous concept of like, how does this work? Is there a defined border between mythologies? But the way they describe it is like, oh, it all exists in this kind of nebulous timeline.
Yeah, that's sort of the various mythologies can coexist and are maybe more like geographically separated. Is sort of what it seems like. Because there was a while where they were talking about the fact that Egyptian mythology was on the table. It was basically like, we're going to either do God of War, Egyptian myth, or Norse myth, and they ended up going with Norse. But I think the idea they're not taking, at least the sense I got was that like Egyptian myth isn't necessarily off the table. It's not like there's only Norse and Greek gods in the, whatever world they're in,
Yeah, to a confusing degree. That was one of the big shocking things from the trip and visiting the studio is how open they were. And maybe it's just Corey likes to talk and he's a very eloquent guy. But they were surprisingly open about like just tossing out different mythologies. Some of these are coming up in the videos later in the month about like, yeah, no, we could go here, we could go here, maybe we can go there in the future. And it kind of zooming out, it feels like they're just in a large way trying to kind of excite people about this brand again. It's been a while since Ascension, and it is a super exciting idea to kind of open this up. Like, it's more than just the Greek world. Like, Kratos can go anywhere, do anything, as the Reading Rainbow song implies.
Well, it's funny because the series has kind of always been that open. Like, even the original God of War, there were special like bonus features on it that showed like abandoned stories and like a story about their brother that they didn't like end up going down and exploring until like the PSP games and stuff. So the series has weirdly always been like, well, we don't know where it's going to go next. We're excited to explore it,
Including, I had no idea, but a lot of this trip was learning a lot about God of War. Apparently, like, they even reference like Christian mythology in the original God of War at some point.
Oh, really?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, which is like, well, they didn't quite go down that path. But the thing goes in one of those concept pieces.
There's also a concept piece that is like has it modern too. That I think like has a bunch of, if I'm remembering correctly, it's like a bunch of helicopters and like military vehicles discovering like a Titan out in the desert or something.
Oh,
that'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, so it's weird to think that the bonus features on the original God of War are carrying through today in the studio, even though it's not David Jaffe who's that creative director.
Yeah.
It's Cory Barlog, who was the creative director for God of War 2. And overall, they're just trying to excite people about this brand again. Like he even said, like, oh, we want this to be on the same level like an Uncharted or an Assassin's Creed. We want this to be a huge, expansive universe to kind of carry on into the future.
But and one thing I want to stress about that too, before everyone starts saying like, oh, like multiple games confirmed or whatever. I mean, like, I don't think it's a stretch to say like, yes, if this game is successful, Sony would want to like keep capitalizing on that.
No, I don't know.
But I mean, like, it also doesn't seem, from what I got, that they are necessarily like really planning super far ahead about like, oh, this is a brand new art. It doesn't feel like they're getting ahead of themselves. Everyone seems like right now it seems like people are most concerned about like this game and the technical and like gameplay challenges involved with that. But everyone sort of also acknowledges like, oh yeah, if this is successful, there are places we can go.
You can't help but daydream about it a little bit. And they weren't even as specific as, the Norse trilogy or anything like that. Like who knows if they're going to break it up by actual pieces of hardware that the games are out on or some other way of defining like when exactly they would change up the mythology again. But that was one of the surprising things too, is we talked to them about kind of like the origins of the project, and Shannon, the head of the studio over there at Santa Monica, and she wanted Corey to come back because she wanted an old timer. Jaffe was busy, wanted an old timer to come back and kind of like reboot things and get it rolling again.
Quick question there. You said Jaffe was busy. Did they at least consider it? I mean, did you guys talk to them about him at all?
She did say that, but it was unclear of how serious that ever was.
Yeah. Well, and they didn't say like, oh, Dave Jaffe was our first choice, but he couldn't do it, so we got old silver medal here. It was
good nickname though.
It was more. I think the sentiment was generally like if we want to reimagine this franchise, we need people who are like intimately involved in its creation, who are familiar with its past. And one of those, like, there are two people who fit that criteria, and one of them is not available.
Yeah, Corey had worked on the first game, correct? Like,
he was an animator.
The second one, but he was also there.
I was excited when they announced Barlow because I really love 2. Like 2 in some ways, maybe like. It is like my favorite first experience, if that makes sense. Like my first playthrough of 2 was probably my favorite among the trilogy. So
cool.
So what has Barlog been doing like since 2?
He calls it like his wandering. I forget how he. We're gonna hopefully have him on the podcast at the end of the year,
that'd be cool,
to kind of dive into that stuff.
He was doing like a Mad Max thing for a while. That felt
he was working with George Miller for a while, on some sort of Mad Max related something or other. But what he talked about at the studio, which is interesting, was his time at Crystal Dynamics, where he was. The way he phrased it, at least, he said he was going to be leading up the sequel to Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider.
The sequel to Rise of the Tomb Raider?
I'm sorry, the sequel to Tomb Raider, which was Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Which became Rise of the Tomb Raider.
But he knew he wanted to make a game about a lot of snow, but he wasn't sure exactly where to do it. And
someone with some kind of axe of some kind, or
so he's had an interesting journey throughout all of entertainment, and I really hope he talks more about it in the podcast.
He was working on that Mad Max game for a while.
Right, that's exactly it. Yeah.
But that's not. Is that one linked to the Mad Max game that actually came out?
I don't think
it's connected. I mean, it's the same studio, but I think it went through a big reboot and kind of separated itself more from Fury Road, was my impression. From going on that cover story, that once he left and kind of direct involvement with George Miller left, even though there's still tie-ins with Fury Road, like the War Boys and stuff in that Mad Max game that did come out. I think it definitely changed.
So it's interesting. It seems like he started a lot of projects, but he hasn't been able to see them through until... presumably this one.
And this one seems like a very tough one to see through all the way. But just talking about the new God of War and why it's difficult, like, I was struck that they were explaining just that they really had to pitch a lot of people on making this new God of War, to the point even that it seemed like, did they have to convince Sony to make another God of War? And Shannon even said, like, hey, it's kind of like a make or break for how we see the studio. Like, this is the defining thing of the studio. And it seemed like the development team was the one really pitching, like, let us make another one.
Yeah, I think a lot of that ties into the fact that, like, okay, so like God of War 1 and 2 definitely like hugely successful. I think 3 was also very successful. But when you get along to Ascension, I think you have people sort of like, and I don't think I think the studio definitely got the sense from the fans loud and clear that, like, we're kind of cooling on this a little bit, and this like, formula is starting to get very familiar and stuff like that. And I think that perception was also, and I don't know who's in charge of making these decisions or something, but like whoever it is was also aware of that perception, to the point that, like, yeah, God of War was great, but like Kratos' story is kind of done, right? So you're really gonna have to do some work to convince me that this franchise that people sort of maybe see on the sort of decline is worth like reinvesting in.
And nothing's more exciting than going to Scandinavian mythology, which I feel like maybe it's just because I like that mythology, but I was just championing for years, like, oh my God, wouldn't that be so much more exciting if he went to a different mythology like that one?
Well, and I think, and you know, this comes across in the story, if you read it too, is that, like, I think a lot of what made this game possible is the fact that it is so different from previous God of Wars, that it really is, like, I mean, like Ben started off saying, like, a reimagining. It has Kratos, but like, it's a very different God of War, to the point that, like, if you are just like slavishly devoted to that old style of combat and stuff. Like this is different. They're not pretending like this is the game that is for all of those fans.
It's not really for God of War fans. Is kind of what you're saying. Like,
no,
I mean, they hopefully will like it, but
it's just different.
Okay.
So it's like at some point, if you're a fan of any series, I think you need to acknowledge that it's like a need to evolve at some point, right? So I think a lot of their effort went into identifying how you can make God of War evolve, still retain the things that people identify with in that series and the things that make it successful without necessarily feeling like, well, we need to have the camera pulled out this far and like things like that.
Do you know what that initial pitch was that finally convinced the higher ups that, all right, God of War approved?
Snow and mountains and cool
That's
Norse
all it
gods.
takes.
No, I don't know. I mean, definitely it seemed like the overall drive for this game was to make it more intimate. Visceral is the classic overused phrase, but just pull that camera in. And the camera work is something that the team is very, very focused on. Like the interesting thing is that like the camera never cuts. So when you're playing the game, as long as you don't go in the menu, it's like one long continuous take if you do it all in one go, which is a cool idea. How did they phrase it? Oh, they called it a living nightmare, trying to technically make this work. And it's a cool little detail. And Corey has an interesting take on it, saying that like, oh, this is separating video games from films. We don't need to use editing and cuts. I mean, that's film verbs. Games should do their own thing by not cutting at all.
Well, what's weird is like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice did the same thing with their camera.
Yeah.
And that was also a Norse game.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting how they overlap in some weird ways. Some similar ideas, which I'm sure they thought of independently. They weren't like, oh, Hellblade, we should do that.
Right. No, absolutely not. I think that is a larger thing. And we talk about that in a video interview coming up later in the month on the site. Just that idea of there is this larger trend in the industry towards let's focus on some low-key drama, hit some bigger range of emotional notes. Let's get a companion in there. I mean, the easy thing is, oh, they wanted The Last of Us up, the God of War series. But comparing it to Hellblade is an interesting one because definitely watching Joe play the game, my main takeaway was like, oh, this is more gamey than I expected. Don't think this is some art house piece. You know, like it's still in some ways a God of War game. And I think you go into that well in the cover story, Joe.
Thank you.
Have you ever guys noticed though? So Atreus is the huge thing with the new God of War. It's
the
Kratos'
son.
Yeah.
He's actually pretty small physically.
The tiny, tiny son that runs around with you throughout the game.
He climbs you like a Colossus, right?
That's exactly it. But tell me if I'm reaching to think like Sony more than any other publisher is so focused on like the buddy dynamic in games.
Let's put children in dangerous situations.
Why do you think that is? I mean, you could go back to like Team Eco. It seems like Naughty Dog was heavily influenced by Eco, and then everyone's influenced by Naughty Dog. You can go back, like, Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank. Like Sony and the buddy dynamic has been this weird ongoing thing for years.
I remember the Prince of Persia, the 2008 one, the open world Prince of Persia. They were talking about that idea of like just giving you a companion and how it like personalizes any sort of video game adventure just tremendously. Like having Yorda with you in Ico, or even Navi in Ocarina of Time. Like just having someone to go along with you just like makes the journey just that much more impactful. And I think Sony's like acknowledging that. Yeah, it helps the story. It helps to have someone to talk to like while you're on an adventure. And I think
my favorite conversation topic, hey, there's a ladder over here.
That's why you're always yelling that around the office.
Hey, jump up here. Oh, I think you can boost me up there.
But I think
okay.
You're right. I mean, I think Sony has like acknowledged that maybe more than others, that it's like just having an AI character with you with you during the course of a game makes it somehow just like it makes the experience less lonely and more interesting,
Yeah even though it seems extremely difficult to get right. I mean, it seemed like the overwhelming theme of a lot of studio visits, but especially this one is like, hey, games are hard to make, and this one is brutally difficult, trying to get Atreus better and better and better. And they talked about like, focus testing. It was just wave after wave of focus testing to get it to the point that he's not an annoying companion that you have to hold his hand throughout the experience. But hopefully you will grow to love Kratos' son. Anything stand out to you about the development of this game, Joe, from our brief glimpse at the studio?
Well, let's see. I'm trying to think of something that I haven't just said several times already, but I think part of it, what you're talking about, is like about the camera stuff. I think it's interesting that for something, if I were designing a game and I were to be like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have a no-cut camera? And the technical team were to come to me and be like, and say the things that this technical team said, right? About how hard it's going to be, I would be like, oh, okay, we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Like, gamers know what a normal edits, cutscenes, like, people are familiar with that. If it's going to be that much work, we can do without it.
Yeah,
but this is why I'm not a game director, because like
I mean, even like Hellblade, which is like a good point of comparison for that one specific idea, like it's not super noticeable. It's not like you finish Hellblade and you're like, oh, wow, you know what? I felt like I never left Senua's side.
And that's part of what would influence my decision there is like, okay, what's our payoff here?
Right?
Yeah. Like not only hard work is bad, but hard work for what benefit? And it's like something that players probably wouldn't be able to say like, oh, it's really cool how this camera doesn't cut. But the team at Santa Monica, I think, had an interesting take on that, which is like, even if only the like film nerds or whatever will be able to like instantly tune into what's happening camera wise, it still has an effect, right?
It's about how it feels.
Like, even if you're not like, hey, the camera hasn't cut, yeah, it's about how it feels. You'll still feel more. I mean, the idea is you'll still feel more immersed in that action. It's still going to feel more present. It's still, like...
Yeah.
I mean, the easy example is we're talking about a lot about no-cut cameras on this trip. And it's like, oh, the Death Stranding trailer recently. Like, maybe people didn't realize that there wasn't a cut in that trailer, but maybe one of the reasons that had such a big impact on people watching it was it was all just this one seamless shot.
I didn't actually even notice that until you just said it. But
and playing the God of War, new God of War, maybe you'll have the same thing.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, because it's one of those things I knew going in for Hellblade that it was like that. But like, a lot of times I wasn't even thinking about it, like Kyle said. But I do think, like, whether I was conscious of it or not, there is sort of something that provokes within you when you're actually playing a game. Yeah.
There's a sort of intimacy that it just creates, regardless of whether or not you can identify it.
Yeah, and also it was fascinating talking to the team about just bringing that camera in for the new camera perspective so close to Kratos, and like, what does that mean with? They're not saying that it's in there, although I guess in some trailers you see like the Midgar serpent and stuff. But just like when it comes to seeing huge enemies, knowing that camera is going to be so close to Kratos, like you can no longer just fully zoom out and have this crazy thing where he's running around some thumb or some
you can't go up Mount Olympus and take a quick look at Hercules before you make your way up to the mountain.
Couldn't they theoretically
Poseidon.
Zoom it out? Like, just because you guys didn't see it doesn't mean they couldn't, right?
I guess they could. It definitely seemed like they wanted to keep that camera behind Kratos at all times.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess if nothing else, I would not expect that to happen all the time.
Okay.
I think it would change up the feel of combat so drastically. It'd be kind of off-putting compared to the slightly more kind of sort of isometric view or just kind of above view from the previous God of Wars.
And that's like, I don't know if it's a camera thing necessarily, but like those old God of War games, especially the first three, like were so, like there were a lot of epic moments in there. And like the camera definitely like zooming back and like seeing this giant thing that you're scaling, like that sold that moment.
Yeah.
And do you guys get a sense that they're still kind of going for these epic moments? Maybe they feel different because of the camera, but they're still kind of going for those like, big beats.
I mean, I'd say take a look at the E3 trailer from this year where they show like the world serpent emerging, right? Like that is a huge monster that conveys this like this like enormous presence that they pull off without making Kratos a tiny little speck, right?
Yeah, I mean, it'll just feel completely new coming from that type of perspective and whatnot. But I feel like you're kind of loosely hinting at it, Joe, but it does certainly feel like Cory Barlog has a lot of juice, as they say in the studio, a lot of sway. Just be like, yeah, let's do this no-cut camera. It's like, okay, here we go. This is going to be a rough ride.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how the final... How that decision plays out over the course of the whole game, versus the time that we spend playing.
Yeah, I mean, reading your story, Joe, I really love the God of War series. I'm a big fan of it, and reading your story, like I'm super excited for it, but it does seem dramatically different than God of War. Like it feels like it is a new game with a familiar character in a weird way, just based on our perception of it from going on the trip and stuff like that. So I'm very curious to see how it all comes together.
Yeah.
So after seeing the game up close, are you like more excited or less excited or still normally excited?
I mean, it's hard for me to answer that fairly, just because like like Kyle. I mean, like I have been covering these games for so long. I've been a fan of them for so long that
Joe gave God of War 3 a 10. Everybody,
that's true.
I did. it's just like, I think my excitement for a new God of War game has always kind of been at maximum. And even when there are things where it's like, I wonder how that's going to pan out. There's still, you know, like, I guess, like with any game, I'd like to keep a level of optimism and be like, hey, hopefully they can figure that out, you know?
Well, hey, month of coverage, GameInformer.com/God of War. Anything you're looking forward to people seeing throughout the month, Joe?
Boy, yeah. So, well, you already mentioned it, but those rapid fire interviews are always fun to do, and then fun to see the reaction to once they're out. So.
It is fun, and you never know like how a director is gonna like what he's gonna think of being in such an absurd situation for filming those. But Cory Barlog could not have been more on board for doing a silly video like that. But there is a lot of info in that video. It's going up Friday, so if you're listening to this or watching this, then you can check it out. It'll be on Game Informer's site and eventually on the YouTube channel and stuff. But it contains a lot.
Yeah, we also had a good time playing some God of War 2.
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that one. Yeah, we do kind of like a developer commentary for God of War 2.
That's awesome.
For the opening with the Colossus of Rhodes and,
fantastic.
and whatnot.
Yeah, the beginning of that game is so good. It's
it's
absurd.
Really
it's stupid.
So, it's just
stupid.
I feel
It's
like
so dumb. I can't believe Corey did that.
we played that for about, I think, a half an hour and just sort of chatted.
I think it was
over
closer to an hour. Turns out we really took our time with that baby.
Anyway.
Yeah, so check it out. A bunch of fun stuff coming up on GameInformer.com/God of War throughout the month. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Did you play anything fun over the holiday break? Here's what I'm interested in. Kyle, you continue to dabble a little bit with Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm like 12 hours in or something.
And it seems like you're a good
like Joe's the video version. Joe's just kind of like nodding, like, all right, okay.
You're the canary in the coal mine because I always think, God, I want a JRPG to play on the Switch, and I don't want to go back to I Am Setsuna because I did not have a good time with that game. Like, after 12 hours, would you recommend it?
Oh, man.
Are you enjoying yourself?
I don't know. I was like, it was
I've been
super
there,
late,
man.
and I was like, I've put 12 hours in this, and I don't know if I like it. Because, like, I ended last year with Final Fantasy 15, which was, like, I was happy about that. And I was like, it was a game I could play in front of my kid. Like, I could put a bunch of time in. Like, and I know you always frown at me.
Daughter reference in 2018.
I know. But it's just, it's hard. It's tough for me to like play big, huge M-rated games. Like Assassin's Creed Origins, I don't have a lot of time to play that game. So I was like, I want to play a big game that I can play anytime I want.
Yeah.
And Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was that. And I'm like 12 hours in and like, man, I don't know. It's just like moving around the world is not super fun. And like, I like the combat because it's like somewhat passive. Like things just kind of happen on their own and there's not a lot of interaction, which works.
Yeah.
But like, then there's like, and it's not even just Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but there's things about JRPGs. There's like just no subtlety in the animation that just drives me crazy. It's like, all right, activate happy animation in this part of the conversation. Okay, let's switch to sad animation face for this section. There's just like, and that stuff just drives me crazy when they're just like
there's just so much content to animate they can't take a
it feels like shortcuts have been taken and like, but I don't know, man. I'm still playing it. Like, what can I say? I'm gonna keep going.
It'll really peak around 85 hours in. I think you'll really enjoy it.
So, yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of questions for you, Joe, that maybe I'll ask off air.
Yeah,
but,
we can do that. I mean, that's the sensation that you're talking about dogged me through the entire game.
Okay, good. All right.
Because like there are times when it's like, wow, I'm really having a good time with this. This is really cool. And then you just hit some bullshit and you're like, why does the game do it this way?
Yeah.
There is clearly a better way to handle blank.
Yeah.
And when they make those wrong turns, it is just so aggravating.
I'm also, which is a burden I'll have to bear for the rest of my life, is that I've been spoiled by Breath of the Wild. And this is like a big, open areas. And there's so many times where I'm like, well, I guess I got to walk around this mountain and I have to like switch the map view constantly to be like, wait, can I walk around here? Nope, I took the wrong path. Better double back and go back around. Where it's like, and it doesn't help that they helped with Breath of the Wild, so it kind of looks similar sometimes. And it's like, man, I wish I could just jump off that and fly away or just climb the side of this mountain to get to that checkpoint I need to get to.
I had a really dorky experience too where I've been playing Skyrim on Switch.
Yeah.
And because I love Breath of the Wild so much, I thought like, maybe I should just try and play this as much as possible like Breath of the Wild's like third person camera Skyrim. Gonna focus on a sword and a shield, gonna go journey around. And then I just get more and more angry that it's not Breath of the Wild, where it's like, there's people in the office, I won't point fingers, but they sit in Matt Burt's seat, who just talks about how Skyrim's world is the best open world of all time. It just annihilates Breath of the Wild's world, and I'm just running around Skyrim's world like, I've been running around for 30 minutes. I saw one rabbit. What am I missing here? But I'm going to keep going. Keep going. We'll see how it goes.
I'm going to keep playing Xenoblade Chronicles. Maybe, and my annoyance there could just be a shortcoming of me not quite understanding how to navigate the world yet, even though I've been playing it for 12 goddamn hours.
The map never gets better.
Oh,
That's
perfect.
Okay, you
That's
guys.
a huge problem.
Hey, let's.
Do you guys even like video games?
Yeah, can we just go on?
I finished Hollow Knight over the break. That was fantastic.
All right,
I played Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh,
that was.
We had an email about that, and I didn't include it. I'm sorry, but what is it?
What is
email?
the game?
I don't know. Hi, Game Informer Show.
It's interesting because it's positioned as as a sort of anime dating sim visual novel thing, right?
I know, but what does it do that's new for the genre? Sorry, that was a shout out to Bombcast. Anyways, go on.
Oh, okay. So,
hey, Bombcast, shout out.
We all get it.
They're going to really appreciate the extra exposure we're getting. So, basically, it's positioned as this dating simulator, and you play it. I mean, probably for a good hour and a half, 2 hours, when it feels like that, where it's like you're talking. There are three women in this club that you sort of talk to, and you compose poems that you think they're going to like at night, and then you see how they react to them the next day. But then at one point, and I don't want to spoil any specifics for people who are considering playing it, but the game, when you start it up, warns you this is not for children. If you're disturbed by, if you're easily disturbed by images, this is maybe not for you.
Don't think this is a Doki Doki Panic sequel.
Right. It just takes a weird kind of meta turn at one point that basically flips the game that you think you've been playing upside down. That's kind of interesting.
So recommended.
It's clever. If I had played it earlier, I don't think it would have made my top 10 for the year, for instance. So it doesn't feel like this, huge omission to me or anything. But I had a good time with it.
I'll speak for Serial, who's flipping cameras in the booth, that it nearly made his top 10.
Wow.
He was a big fan.
Wow.
Number one literature fan. All right, guys, you want to move on to emails?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We have some wonderful emails, just the best possible emails that people send into podcast@GameInformer.com. You can send in anything you want. News stories you want us to talk about, questions, comments, advice, dares, fan fiction,
Poems.
anything you want. Podcast@GameInformer.com.
Send us a script. We'll read it.
Haikus?
Reuse, this is a good point. We've been talking with this for a long time. Should we just ask for that?
I think it'd be fun.
Here's the thing. We think it'd be fun if people wrote in an email. I'm gonna be drastic about this. 1 page of game-related fan fiction.
Double space, single space.
I don't know.
Okay.
You want an example of this?
Wait. Hold on. Let me amend that before we just say fan fiction, because 1 page can actually be a lot. What if it's more of a play format? So everyone at the table.
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So not just a page of prose,
right?
But a script.
Table of amateurs.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we did the Resident Evil script. How long ago was that? Like a year and a half ago at this point? 2 years?
Maybe more than that. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, the Resident Evil script that never got made.
So
let
us treat your fan fiction like a radio play.
That's online is all I'm saying. You can go watch it if you want
Yes.
to get a feel for it.
Yes.
And we've been thinking it'd be fun to do more stuff like that, but there's not a lot of scripts out there.
And if it's bad, we'll put it after the credits on the podcast.
That's right.
But please write in 1 page, write it up like a script. We'll do some fan fiction, game related, and no porn. Those are only rules. All right, podcast@GameInformer.com. Also, questions are welcome. And then we're going to read through all these emails. We're going to choose our absolute favorite of the bunch and ship that person out something real nice in the year 2018. Maybe it's something new in 2018. Who can say? First email, Chris from Phoenix, Arizona says, "Hey, crew, I'd like to know what was the one game you fought for the hardest to get on 2017's top 50 list or fought to get a higher spot?" Hey, guys, remember our top 50 meeting?
That was a
we
while
all kind of
ago.
agreed on
Remember it.
everything this year.
That was rough.
Yeah, it was perfect. What was the biggest victory for you guys, or something you fought for hard that didn't quite come through?
Fought for hard that did not quite come through, and fight for hard I put in air quotes around the word hard because I literally fought for this as I was walking out the door because I had to leave early. It was
like all great champions.
A real champion.
Yeah,
Kyle, yeah.
Was Hollow Knight. I wanted to see Hollow Knight make top 50. It made my personal top 10, but my argument for it was like, I gotta leave early from this meeting. Everybody, I would really like you to consider Hollow Knight. It's very good. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. And I don't think it ultimately.
That was not a very persuasive argument.
It was not.
It did not make it on the list. I'm sorry for all the Hollow Knight fans out there. But we haven't even acknowledged this yet. But Breath of the Wild, Game of the Year for Game Informer.
That's right. There we go.
The
Good
first
job.
Way to go,
time-
Joe!
Yeah.
The first time for me personally in my entire tenure here at Game Informer that my personal Game of the Year has lined up with Game Informer's Game of the Year.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I've always had a different Game of the Year than what we've collectively decided.
Yeah.
And that did feel like a battle of sorts. I don't know how much we
Didn't
want to
fe-
get into that.
It was. I don't know if it felt like anything. That was rough.
Some people, here's the thing, because it's divisive, with people saying, God, Breath of the Wild, some people are so red hot on it in the office. Personally speaking, it's like, this is what I wanted from a video game for so long. But a lot of people really didn't enjoy their experience with Breath of the Wild, including some possible higher-ups. And I won't point fingers, but they might sit in certain seats over towards the higher-up section of the office. And so it was a tough crusade to try and argue that, like, yeah, I know you didn't have a good time with it, but a lot of people loved it so much. And then the debate is, do we go for a game that has a lot of hot hots and some cools, or a game that's a lukewarm
Universally
bathtub?
appreciated. Yeah. It was a tough battle.
Every year, I was on the Zelda side this year. Every year, I would go in and like, you know what? I'm not going to get riled up this year. We're just talking about video games. We're just having fun. And for some reason, just like talking about games, it's hard not to get riled up.
What is that, Reeves? You always get pissier than I think anybody else.
Well,
and I love you, but
Ben,
you get pissy in those meetings specifically.
He does, but the other thing is that Ben is always on the losing side of those arguments.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's been a single year where like Ben's Game of the Year pick when there's been debate has been the one that actually won.
I think this year, like Kyle, is the first year for me. Yeah. So
And you've been here a lot.
so now I'm going to be happy again.
Yeah. Next year will be
Next year, just hands behind your head the entire meeting.
I could get.
there was a little bit. Which argument that I liked from you, Reeves, was like, look, it's the best game of the year. Like, some people are gonna have to eat it, and they're gonna be unhappy about it. I'm sorry. And that was
Shut up and eat it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that came back on me at some point. But.
Well, like all arguments, eventually did get to that point, which is always fun, of like, okay, no one's learning anything new.
Yeah.
I can't say one more moment from Breath of the Wild that's going to convince someone like Joe that it is the best game of the year.
I can't convince Joe to like Breath of the Wild. Which,
No,
by
and
the
I
way,
did
you
like
did like
Breath
it.
of the Wild.
Yes, yeah.
But
Always got to put that. Yeah, but it wasn't. I don't think it made your top 10, did it?
no.
Okay, yeah.
What was your number one?
My number one was Persona 5.
Oh, right.
And I still think that's
Surprising that
Should have been-
you never
should have
finished
been
it.
That's not
because no
true.
one has.
Yeah,
No
it's
one has.
I
impossible.
still have yet to see any evidence. Send it in to podcast@gameinformer.com because I ain't seen it.
You can't look up the trophy
Really? Has
data. There's
one
no way
sent
to
you
know.
that?
That's right, Joe. Not a single person has sent in anything. Serial in the booth is screaming for me to bring up that For Honor was also one of those that was on the bubble for the top 50.
Oh.
And eventually it made it.
That was
Serial?
It did, yeah.
Yeah, it made it.
Because
Okay.
like it was For Honor, and like Hollow Knight was one that I was like gunning for that spot too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Hollow Knight fell to For Honor.
One thing too, I was going to say is like we also have our list that we come up
The
with,
best part.
and I think that's a lot of fun actually to create those lists.
Yeah.
And we had a character from Night in the Woods, May, who was on the list.
Yeah.
Who I think is a good character, but I really thought that Greg was a better character, and that was the battle I lost. But that's one where I was like,
I think
I
Greg's
was a little frustrated.
He's more fun, but he's less interesting. He's a
Yeah.
little more.
Greg is less of a character and more just like he's like the R2D2 of Night in the Woods. Like you wouldn't say like R2D2 has some great moments, but you wouldn't be like I really like R2D2 as a
Yeah, he's the
character.
J, and we want to go with the silent Bob.
Yeah, Reeves,
All right,
I'm sorry, Reeves. I played Night in the Woods over the break, and I think May is more interesting. Than Greg.
Kyle, you're
Yeah.
wrong.
Hell
I wasn't
yeah.
there for that argument. But
That was I felt like that was a big victory getting May on the list even up so high. And then there's always the dorks list, which is the most fun. We talk a little bit about it later on in the show, but I'm very happy that suggestion that I made of Master Koga, which is kind of a deep cut from Breath of the Wild, made that dorks list.
yeah, because I was saying Prince Saigon, I think is his name, the
Yeah.
Prince, which he became like a meme. But I think we made the right call ultimately, because I mentioned it to you. I was like Prince Saigon, and you're like, no man, we got to do what? I'm sorry, what's the character's name again?
Koga.
Koga. And I instantly was like, oh, Yeah, it has to be cool.
That was funny because that guy basically just defeats himself.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, I really enjoyed that sequence. And it was nice. It also, not to go too deep into it, but just like the build up to who that character is through the course of the game of you constantly having to deal with those cult members.
Joe, just because it's the highlight of my year, what is the history of the top 10 dorks list at Game Informer? When did that start? Were you here for that? Why do I see it as your baby?
You maybe see it as my baby because I tend to be the person who writes those entries.
Oh, and just your face in general.
And I mean, I connect with a lot of those characters based on my dorkiness.
Correct.
No,
cool hoodie from 1992, by the way.
It was actually going on when I started. We would still do dorks list.
Really?
We used to do heroes and villains and dorks, so it was like a giant list of like three different lists for characters, which I thought was kind of a lot.
And it is a lot. I love the little detail though that I believe it was specifically Joel from The Last of Us that made us change it from heroes and villains to characters, which I think is a much more interesting list. Am I remembering that correctly, Joe? I'm just like, where does he land?
Right.
One thing to know about the way those lists happen though is that like I think that we've been wrestling with that problem. That problem had been percolating for several years, right? Of like, okay, so who's a character? And like, it's like heroes. Okay, well, Mario's a great hero. He's in a great game, but like Mario's also boring. So then it's like...
It also really peaked, I think, when Miller argued for way too long that Grimlock should be considered a hero. That's when we knew that we had to just nuke this entire list.
Well, I guess all I'm saying is like whenever there's a change that happens to our format in those lists, it's usually because like, it's been a problem for a year or two, and we figure some way to sort of like, we'll just push past it for now. And then we hit a case like Joel from The Last of Us, who's like, we can't just push past this one. We have to like deal with this problem.
I think it's also a product of just video game characters getting more gray, too, which is great. Like that's a good thing.
Like hair?
Yes. More characters with gray hair. That's why 2B was, I don't know.
Henry from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Writes in, and if you remember, that made me laugh a couple weeks ago on the podcast, the fact that he's from Gettysburg.
Hilarious.
What?
And,
it's a good joke.
He says, hey, P.S. take it easy on the Civil War jokes this time. I generally don't find them funny.
Whoa.
What does he want from us?
It's a Dukes of Hazzard reference?
Yep, you got it. Anyways, he says, with 2017 coming to an end, now that it's gone, what were your single best and worst gaming decisions of the year? My best was finally becoming part of the PC Master Race, chance one of us, correct? And my worst was that it took me 8 hours of Mass Effect Andromeda before realizing it was bad.
How many hours?
8.
Oh, wow.
Mine was starting Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Just kidding, I'm going to keep playing it. Maybe I'll fall in love with it, I don't know. Waiting so long on Hollow Knight, actually, probably, because that came out early in the year, and it took me a long time to get around to it, and it was very good.
Okay, all right.
I know what my worst decision is for sure, and that's I kept telling myself that I was going to wait until the end of the year to revisit Final Fantasy 15 because I'd played it. I'd gotten the platinum trophy on it like very early in the year.
Yeah.
And then as they were releasing the DLC episodes, rather than play them as they came out, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? So I'm just going to do that all in one big chunk, like over the Christmas break. And then I don't need to like play it piecemeal throughout the whole thing. And now I find myself having just finished the break. I did not really have the willpower or the desire to go back to it at that point, and I really wish I would have played those episodes as they came out so I could have kept up with it and had a better idea about how that game sort of had evolved over time rather than sort of starting it up. I played for like 5 minutes and was just kind of I felt so unfamiliar with what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
You could have had 15 in your life forever, Joe. A game that you love so
I noticed
much.
on Twitter that you started playing Final Fantasy X. Did you just start up the wrong Final Fantasy with an X in it?
No, actually, so that's what I did. Is after I tried getting back into 15 and wasn't feeling it, then I was like, oh, what's this? Final Fantasy X. I haven't played that.
What's this old?
Haven't played that in like 15 years, so I decided to start that up instead.
Oh, what a wonderful opening tune!
It's so good.
How's it go?
I mean, Tu's Anarchy is amazing. But I'm talking about
you're
like
talking about the
rock
the hard
Blitzball one. Yeah, that sucks.
I remember I had
it
like
sets the tone for the rest of the game, right?
I had a PlayStation Underground disc where it showed that dopey ass singer like recording that song.
Oh,
in the booth.
really?
Yeah, it's
I
so
want to
bad.
see that.
Oh no,
I do. Even I was a fan of metal at the time. Like I was a metalhead, and even I was like, this is bad.
Come on, Final Fantasy, don't do this.
You look really great. This cutscene's amazing. Mute.
In terms of good gaming decisions, for me, it was PUBG And then for a while, because I have like my computer in my living room, and so for a while, as I was trying to play with like a mouse and wireless keyboard and all this stuff, and it's just a disaster. And then finally, I was like, "F it!" Getting a new keyboard, getting a new mouse, wired, getting like a desk in here so I can take PC gaming seriously with a mouse and keyboard. And it's one of my favorite decisions of the year. I had so much fun with that game. I think specifically because it just kind of revamped the actual physical space that I was playing.
Oh, yeah, I think for me, good decisions I made were. Giving SteamWorld Dig 2 and Heat Signature second chances. Because those are both games that I played.
Dig 2 is one that I was really happy that made it on the top 50, by the way, to go back a question.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Those are both games I played for like maybe a half hour, and early on I was kind of like, it seems fine, and put it aside for something else. And I'm glad I went back to both of those games because I ended up playing through them both and really liking them.
SteamWorld Dig, that's on a Switch, right?
Yeah.
It's on Switch,
it's on,
PS
Vita.
I had that classic conundrum where I started on Steam and was like, it's all right. I don't know if it's really grabbing me, but there's still a part of me that's like, maybe I should just buy it on Switch. Maybe it'll grab me differently there.
I played it on Switch and played it the whole time like portable, basically. Yeah. It was really nice.
All right.
I want to get in my good decision.
Yeah.
I just thought of it. I stopped being afraid, or rather I stopped having reservations about going back to replay games. Which
replay old games?
Yeah. So part of I think we can all identify with this to some degree is that like, so we have those big like year-end discussions and stuff. I think that there's a lot of pressure to like, okay, I want to play what's new.
Yeah.
And if the time comes when it's like, okay, I need to choose between like, there are two games I want to play. One is older, one is newer. It's like, I'll usually go to the newer one because then it's like, oh, well, then I can weigh in if it's like on Game of the Year discussions.
There might be a dork in here I got to find out about.
Yeah, I mean, like ultimately, it's useful for like our jobs to play things that are newer. And over the last year, I decided to sort of like, you know what? If I want to go back and replay an old game, if it's a remaster or whatever, like I'm going to let myself do that and not feel guilty about it. And that led to me spending like another 80 hours with Stardew Valley.
Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh.
It led to me playing...
Joe's, by the way, I saw Joe playing on his Switch Stardew Valley. He has a ridiculous operation there. He's just the wine baron. That's all he created. He's got like multiple sheds just filled with pumping pieces of wood caskets, just cranking out.
Well,
that
we know
wine.
from last. No, wait. You know what? I was gonna make a joke about grapes. How much you love grapes, and you tried to make that a top 10, but it was blueberries that you wanted.
Now he's making blueberry wine.
But yeah, Dragon's Dogma. I played a bunch of Dragon's Dogma. I played a bunch. Oh, I mean, I started FF10 again. That was still so. You know, it's fun to go back and like remind yourself about. Like what it was about those games that really grabbed you in the first place.
Joe,
so, yeah,
do what makes you happy, man.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, come on, Joe. It's all good.
I'm going to punch you later.
Wait, hold on.
That's going to put a smile on my face.
Larry Ash from Adelaide, Australia says, hey, crew, partly inspired by the last episode, a couple back actually. I tested out Jackbox games at my family Christmas. Once we got past the initial confusion about opening Chrome, yada, 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 even my 70-something parents got into it, and I noticed that the overall tone of the responses quickly becomes evident after a few rounds, and everyone begins joking around on the same level. He doesn't say, but just assume that's about penises at that point.
Yeah.
All in all, it was a success. How did your own attempts at family party games go this year?
Good. We also played a lot of Jackbox. I tried to get people interested in Civic Doodle. Apparently, I'm the only one in the world who likes that game as much as I do.
I like Civic Doodle.
Yeah, well, I liked it a lot too, and we were playing here, and everybody's like, yeah, it's pretty good, but it's no like TKO or like drawful.
And then you got so pissy, just like those.
Super pissy.
Sometimes you just gotta eat it. You just gotta play the game that you don't want to play.
Gotta eat the doodle.
But yeah, my family seems sort of lukewarm on that game as well. So
sure, it wasn't just their feelings towards you in general.
Yeah, I was like, guys, where's my presents?
We're going to be in this room, Benny. Don't come in here.
You keep playing your Nintendos.
Guys, somebody lock the bathroom door.
Yeah, we talk about it later in this episode, of course, because we have to bring it up every episode multiple times. But Dropmix was a big hit. Even amongst like nephews and stuff. Like it's so easy for a 3-year-old just to throw random cards on that and then look around the room like, oh, look at this crazy thing I made. It's still amazing.
I got Codenames for Christmas, which is good. And then there's another board game called Evolution, which I don't think we even mentioned on the podcast before, but that is also a surprisingly fun game.
Evolution.
Yeah, you start out, you create these like characters and you like add traits to them, and then you're basically trying to collect the most food, and then you win.
It's like Evo Search for Eden on Super Nintendo?
It's exactly like that.
Yeah,
but
that sounds great.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
I played Dropmix at Miller's house for the first time, and I immediately just laid down all 5 vocal cards and cranked the volume and speed, and I made something that sounds very, very bad.
Oh, fantastic! You broke the game.
Yeah,
for the first time ever.
Miller had challenged me because it's not that he thought I couldn't do it. It was more like he was talking to another friend about it and saying like, and even if you have no skill at all, you can like pretty much lay things down and count on the fact that the game will compensate, for you. And I was like, oh, is that right? He's like, Joe, I have faith in your ability to destroy that notion, and I did.
Did you have the Disturbed vocal track on there?
No,
so good.
That's like the best one.
I used the Evanescence one a lot.
Nice.
And then I also had a Jackbox moment, except I didn't have like a laptop with me, and my parents don't have a TV, so we were all crowded around my tiny Switch screen.
Yuck.
That is
just like the commercial.
That is not the way to play Jackbox.
And you're on a roof?
Yeah, we're on a roof in minus 13.
Your
Squinting
family.
for dick jokes.
I think that's a penis.
Let's see. Garion. This is an amazing name. Garion Nobinger? Wow. You're cool. From Huntsville, Alabama.
You're cool.
Says, hey, everybody. Recently, a Numa of Nintendo fame said development for the next Zelda has begun. I think the next Zelda game, no matter how good it is going to have a hard time being in Breath of the Wild's shadow. Do you think it will use the Majora's Mask game plan, recycling Breath of the Wild assets as much as possible, and maybe deliver within 2 years? I fear this could be seen as a yawn, more of the same release. Or do you think it'll be more serious next generation with game engine changes like underwater areas, mechanics? I fear it could take 4 years. What do you guys think? Are they going to crank this out in 2 years?
Kyle and I were actually just talking about this.
The reason we're talking about it, of like what we could conceivably see next and what we think would be cool. And one thing we talked about was like, I don't really think they're going to do this, but I think it would be kind of neat is if they took their Breath of the Wild landscape that they've used and kind of look at like a Link to the Past or an Ocarina of Time that had an alternate dark world, and kind of apply that to Breath of the Wild as like a big DLC of some kind.
But they've said they're done with DLC.
Yes, I know, but like that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's something they would do. Like I think I'm leaning more towards the idea of like we're not going to see another Zelda for like 4 years. Is what I think. But I think it would be really cool and thematically consistent with Zeldas of the past to explore a dark, version of that Hyrule with like new content, new characters. I think
would
that
that have
cool.
to be DLC though? I mean, what if
I
they
don't think it would
took
have
2
to
years
necessarily.
and then made a dark world version of that?
He
where
would
it's like
buy that.
they would still have the same world. I'm not sick of that world. I wouldn't mind if there's just
Yeah.
a more interesting version of it in a dark
Or
world
just even
scenario.
like it would be like it worked really well with Majora's Mask, and it's not like a copy paste sort of thing that you can do. Like, oh, let's just do what we did for Majora's Mask for this, but like that applied just a huge amount of surprise to like a formula that they established with Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
And I think it would be cool to see them like do something surprising with the world that they've already created in a smaller amount of time than it would take to create a whole new sequel.
Yeah,
With Majora's Mask, though, it's like back then, the late '90s. How long did it take to make a new?
Well, the
like, version
idea
of that?
the idea was that they wanted to do it within a year, and then development got bloated and it got extended to like 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, all I'm saying is like back then it was easier to like create another world like really quickly.
Yes.
With
No,
this,
that's true.
like
Yeah.
I don't know how easy it is. Sure, they have the like systems in place, but I don't know how long it would take to create a whole new world.
now that they're used to this
That's
engine,
that
I mean,
big.
yeah, they've said that they're going to stick with the open world design moving into the future. I'd imagine this engine, but it's like, okay, even if it's this world, they have a dark world alternative, and then just give you some new basic abilities. I can live with that. Joe, you seem disgusted.
Here, I want to rain on this parade a little bit, and that's
Sounds
like
Zelda.
for whatever.
can't climb anymore.
Even if I thought, like for whatever problems I had with Breath of the Wild, like what made that game successful is that Nintendo listened to what fans said that they wanted from a Zelda game, and then just like gave them a big middle finger, and did something completely different.
What do you think
Right?
they thought fans were saying?
They want more of the same. Is that what you're saying?
Like what I'm saying is that when you like now when you guys are talking about what you want from the next Zelda game, you are working from a foundation of what you're already familiar with about what a Zelda game can be, right? You're working with what Breath of the Wild is and using that as a branching off point. And I feel like what makes Breath of the Wild successful is the fact that it almost like raises the foundation that was there and does new stuff, right?
I see what you're getting at.
Like, hey, Zelda's all about doing a bunch of dungeons and getting a bunch of different weapons. Well, it's not any, or not the tools rather.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And like, hey, let's throw that breakable weapon thing in there. I think that's a crap decision, but like people seem to like that. So
I get what you're getting at, and I'm actually like agree with you to a degree of like the thing that I want most from Zelda, like moving forward, is that I don't even know. Like I want them to just do what I don't expect.
That's what I'm saying.
But I will say
But it's
that
still fun
Breath
to
of the
speculate.
Wild was them looking back to the very original Zelda and the way people felt about that. Like that was something that they were very clear in like their sort of marketing and talking to them. They're like, we wanted to bring back the original open feeling of that very first Zelda. Right. So that like in that regard, they were kind of looking at what people wanted. But I agree with you. It was not what I expected. If they had asked me for like a list of things I want from Zelda, it wouldn't have been the list of things that I love about Breath of the Wild.
My Dada as a protagonist.
But it's still fun to
Claire in there.
speculate. That
Yes,
doesn't mean we can
yeah.
stop like speculating. In
Yeah.
fact, like to answer the question, I think it'd be fun. Like the early design docs for the original Zelda was also kind of sci-fi.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be fun to go back to that and be like, all right, give us another spin-off. Maybe it's a spin-off game where you do go into the future and it's sci-fi, and then couple that with the idea of like play as Zelda. Like I've been wanting to play as Zelda for like a while now. I think it'd be fun to play as Zelda. So give us a game where you play as actually Zelda
You could buy a CDI.
in the future. That'd
Yeah,
be fun.
cool.
Yeah, that's good.
I would like a more science fiction lean for Zelda. I think that'd be neat. You know, like
Yeah.
that definitely. There was some of that in Breath of the Wild, but it'd be
And-
cool for them to go harder into it.
And she knows magic, so like you could like lean on that a little bit, like
Mhm.
some magic spells or something.
Go up. There we go.
Or just don't dream, like Joe.
No, I'm not saying don't dream. I guess what I'm saying is I feel like any discussion that is about this is what I want from the next Zelda game is like is ultimately just going to be like it's fun to speculate about it, but I think any of those discussions are going to dead end at I think that's going to be a ho-hum reskin of what the most successful like familiar one is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you want a game that has the sort of groundbreaking success that Breath of the Wild does, any discussion that's about what do we want from the next one is not going to actually have the elements that the next one's going to have.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like their Nintendo's probably goal now is like we want to maintain that level of surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for that reason, like it's going to be different than you expect, which I totally embrace. I don't want to have anything that I expect for the next Zelda.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want a motorcycle again. You know, like
Again.
Oh,
The least expected thing, a motorcycle. Again.
Yeah. See, there you go.
Sorry.
No. Yeah. So that's the point I'm making. I'm not trying to say that like that these kinds of discussions are.
Yeah, we
fun
get
or
it. You
whatever,
call
but,
us
like,
stupid and that our ideas are dumb. Thank you.
No,
Okay,
I
dummy.
get it,
So
I
what's
get
the
it.
next question?
I'm with Gary at underwater. Anyways, Jordan H from Egan says, "Hey, happy holidays. Did someone on staff write something this year that you loved reading? What was it, and why did you enjoy it so much? Compliment your coworkers. Personally, Jordan here thought Elisa's opinion piece on Life is Strange Before the Storm was a wonderful read.
It was good. Cyril, I believe it was this year. The Science of Stuck was that was this year. I really liked that piece that he did, that where he interviewed like psychologists about the idea of getting stuck in video games and how to overcome that and why that is. It was a piece that we had been floating around for a while that Cyril was working on, and we were finally able to publish it this year, and it is online now. But I always like when we kind of look at psychological aspects of like playing video games and talk to experts outside of video games about it.
Sure.
Like I did a piece a while ago about like dreaming about video games, and I always like those kind of sort of sciencey pieces, you know. Sciencey, real sciencey. So I think Cyril did a really great job with that.
Wow.
It was a good
Dang
read.
it, Kyle, you stole my answer. I actually did really like that article, and I found it really interesting. I like those psychological takes on games. No, just like our approach to gaming and what gaming does to us as people. And so now I have to compliment you, I guess, Kyle. So I really actually like the Pokemon retrospective, I guess you'd call it, where you guys went and visited Game Freak, and like it was a fun look back at the series in general and just kind of like the roots of Pokemon.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
Now Reese took mine. I was going to say the Pokemon. So I guess I'll say the stuck one.
I like Jeff Cork's update to our Star Wars story.
That was really good. Yeah.
Honestly, that makes me laugh every single time we post it. I
We
love it
have
so
this
much.
article on the site that's basically a clickhole style joke. Jeff Cork wrote an article about Star Wars, and every time there's Star Wars buzz, new trailer, new film, it gets posted on the site, and it only gets dumber and dumber.
And also, it also like triples the hits every time.
And that sweet cash in our pockets or something.
gosh.
I don't really know.
Yeah, who knows?
But Game Informer Star Wars? How would you find that? I don't know.
I think you just type Star Wars into Google, you'll probably find
Star
it.
Wars Game Informer.
It would be hard to find an article that has the words Star Wars in it more than Jeff Cork's article.
Yeah, come on, Google. Figure it out.
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, we don't really talk about writing too much on the show, but how was writing the God of War cover story? You happy with that one?
Yeah, I'm happy with the way that turned out. Actually,
Were you stressed out writing it?
Not really. Cover stories are sort of difficult undertakings, and everyone has their own like different approach to them. But like one of the ways that I like to do it is so like we go and we spend a few days at the studio, and then I will pretty much go through like almost all of the audio, like from the interviews and stuff first, and then get like quotes and stuff, and then I sort of like use those like transcribed quotes as sort of an outline for writing the story. And I feel like sometimes it's hard to find the thread that connects all the stuff that you want to talk about in a cover story.
Yeah.
And in this one, I feel like it was pretty straightforward. So,
Joe, was your Oregon Trail piece, was that this year or was that last year?
oh yeah, the mech piece was this year.
Yeah.
Game Informer Mech, MECC?
Yeah, MECC.
I think it's online now as well too. Right?
Yep.
I'm just trying to give people Google words.
Oh yeah.
Googleable words. Awesome. There we go. Miles from Eden Prairie says, to whom it may concern, can Kyle do an anime podcast? It concerns us very much. No.
I've got tickets for Mary and the Witch's Flower, I think it's called.
And it's this type of content you can come to expect from Kyle's upcoming anime podcast.
I watched Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust over the break since we're doing the Super Replay, so I went back and rewatched that movie. I could talk about that with Dan for a while.
Or you could just watch the Super Replay of Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah, we don't really talk about Vampire Hunter D very much in that Super Replay.
Cool, check it out. Nick M. from Atlanta says, hey, crew, what the heck ever happened to platinum hits for Xbox games and greatest hits for Sony games? Does that model just not fit today with the digital focus? I guess I haven't thought about this forever. They're just gone, right?
That's good. Well, because there's no scarcity for them anymore. They don't need to be reprinted, right?
Is that the reason? Yeah, I don't know.
Is that how those work?
That either.
I think so. I think when they acknowledged that like a game was a hit, and then a couple months later they needed to, or in most cases I guess it was like a year, they would reprint it with a new ticket with a new sale price. But now they just changed the price on the online version. Like it was them meeting scarcity. I think. Like
I always thought it was like a demand. If they hit a certain threshold, they became.
Yeah,
I could be wrong about that.
I think that's what it was. Is like, oh, you sold 1 million copies, you're a greatest hit, and then
and then you get the ugly red label on PS2.
Yeah.
But why would they? I guess why would they do that? Why did they need to have? Did it help with like selling more copies of the game? Like, it's a greatest hit, so like
it stands on the shelf more. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I would look for that as a kid.
But it is about refilling inventory, right? Wasn't it? I mean, if you sell 1 million copies, you got to
warehouse manager. I have no idea.
Well, this is the question. We're trying to answer it.
But hang on, when did it stop? For like PlayStation specifically, PS3 didn't have.
No, PS3 had them.
PS3 had them.
Yeah.
What color were they?
Gosh, I think. Oh man,
are you sure PS3 had them?
Yeah.
Because there's two different like bindings for PS3 games.
I think they had. I think there were red, right?
I think
Serial says they're red.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Did you look it up, Serial?
He's just holding six copies of them over there.
He's just flicking us off in the booth.
So are we sure they don't have PS4 greatest hits? Is it right? Is it something to do with digital and like?
That's my assumption.
It's not as rare anymore.
I mean, I would say that it's probably more the idea that like if you can why drop the price to $20 if you can drop the price to $30 and still have people like buying it?
But you could still call it a greatest hits at $30.
I love greatest hits. Bring them back. If you know, writing the podcast at GameInformer.com, let us know what the hell's going on with those. Let's see. Christian from San Francisco, California has an email here. I'm a longtime listener, first-time emailer. Hello. I'm writing in hoping for some suggestions for my son. He's proficient in a bunch of different kinds of games and beat Super Mario Odyssey, Titanfall 2, multiple Lego games. Titanfall 2 is very impressive.
Yeah.
He got Battlefront 2 for Christmas and is liking it. Well, your son.
How old
doesn't he know about microtransactions?
Yeah, come on. But he came to me with a surprising request. He asked if I could find him a game where he could draw or do art. I was stumped. He plays Minecraft, of course, and he likes that, but he's wanting something where he can be creative in a different way. Are there any games on any of the consoles or 3DS that you can think of that scratches the itch for someone interested in drawing, art, and creativity?
So on 3DS, there's a couple of Art Academy games, which might be good. But there's also, this one might be harder to find, but there was a game on DS. I think there were two called Drawn to Life. You guys remember this game?
Oh, yeah.
Where you would you would basically get a chance to design the sort of mechanics of the platforming. So it would be like draw something you could bounce off of, and then you'd have to draw whatever you want. You could draw a square, or you could get creative and like draw like a spring.
Testicles. Oh.
Yeah. I think I drew actually kind of like a big fat guy laying on his back so you could like jump off his stomach. I thought it was very funny.
Oh, like the WarioWare game.
Exactly. Yeah. So look for that. Drawn to Life.
Right.
It might be on the eShop, maybe?
If he enjoys physics, on Steam, there's still Cran Physics, which is a game I love where you draw different shapes and solve puzzles with what you draw.
Oh, yeah.
It's very physics-based. It's an awesome game. It's a great soundtrack. Otherwise, do you guys think Scribblenauts works in this camp? You're not drawing per se, but it is creative.
It's a cool game. Like, but yeah, that's tough because like you're not drawing, you're not creating things, you're just summoning things from thin air.
You know what he does? If he has an Xbox One, he could go for Project Spark, or he could wait a little bit and go for Dreams on PS4.
I think Project Spark. I don't know if that's actually up anymore.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Project canceled.
You know what though?
I was thinking about that with like Little Big Planet though, like which might hit that.
Oh yeah.
You're not drawing exactly, but you are taking a bunch of things and you can like combine them together to create your own visual things. If that makes sense.
It's a little like, I mean, I guess if he already likes Minecraft, though, I think Minecraft is probably a more accessible version of what Little Big Planet would offer. But
I'm trying to think.
They're
Actually,
different.
aren't there points in which you can like draw things?
Yeah, I mean, you can draw platforms and you can draw stages.
Yeah.
And stuff.
So there's some drawing.
That's a good example. And Little Big Planet 3 on PS4 is okay. Go for that one.
There's also A Hat in Time has one part where you take a photo of yourself and then you get to draw on the photo, and that's your ID picture. For
Look
the rest
forward
of the
to
game.
that one part.
There's a level in
Nice
Super Mario Odyssey where you have to draw a circle, like walk around a circle.
That's
with
true.
He already
his
beat Super Mario
No,
Odyssey.
in
He's
Duke
already
Nukem
played that.
Forever, there's a whiteboard where you can take a Sharpie to it, so I'd recommend Duke.
Oh, that's a piece of poop.
hey, Okami has you tracing things.
Okami has you
Oh,
tracing.
and hey, actually, that just came out on PS4, and you should play that anyway. So
I guess. There we go. Josh from Houston, Texas says, "Hey, crew, what's up with all the squeezing through gaps in games? I've noticed this trend recently, and it always sticks out to me. I guess it's cool? Is it a way of hiding the load or something? I think so.
I think that's what it is.
What games do you think of when you think squeezing through a gap?
God of War 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
there's a
think of
big
Uncharted.
gap squeezing.
Final Fantasy 15.
Tomb Raider.
Oh yeah.
Uncharted, Tomb Raider.
Also, I went back and watched this footage recently, the Final Fantasy VII remake. I forgot that like one of the first things they show is Cloud going through a gap. It's like, who wants this from Midgar?
Yeah, there's also shimmying. Is that something I feel like I'm doing all the time? Like, or
Real
walking
life?
on logs?
Oh.
Like, I'm guessing these things are all just done to mask loads. I don't know, but
Well, definitely when it comes to masking loads, I know to like offload the geometry behind them. That's why Uncharted has so many like slippery surfaces.
Yeah.
Whoa, 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 whoa. It's just so then you can't get back up the hill, and then they can just offload everything back there.
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's kind of like the Metroid Prime doors, right? Where you just shoot it and it'll take a while before it opens. I think going through cracks in these games is a good way just to slow you down so they can load some stuff. I think. Control the camera a little bit. Nick from Atlanta has a killer question. Hey, crew, I hate spiders with a passion. I understand they're really useful for taking care of all sorts of crazy insects, but I just really don't want them near me. Even when I'm trying to escape into video games, there they are. I play a lot of RPGs and fantasy-themed games, and there's probably some spider or spider-like enemy in all of them. Legend of Zelda, Skyrim, dear lord, the HD frostbites. Heck, even Limbo had a spider. Can you name an RPG fantasy game that does not, for sure, have a spider?
Hmm.
No spider-like creature.
Okay, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is out.
Because I have not encountered a spider, and that seems to me like it would be a low-level enemy.
What?
So if you
No, they're in Xenoblade Chronicles.
Oh, they are. Okay.
They're
Yeah,
all,
absolutely.
and it's actually in the case when you open up the little switch case.
It's
Oh,
full of
God.
spiders. Yeah.
In fact, I heard, and I don't know if this is true, I heard that there's actually a spider in the shoe of the podcast listener listening to this right now.
Oh.
you asshole. What about crabs? Are crabs okay? Those are like 6 legs. Like, does that bug them too? You
So
think?
that doesn't count?
I don't know.
I
I
think
still spiders. Okay, I wanna
Horizon's an
think about
interesting
this.
one where you like there's the huge mechanical thing that kind of has a spider-like leg structure, and it it's not
Does that
crawling
count,
around.
though?
It's a spiderish shape.
What about Nier? You're just mostly fighting like robots now, and I'm trying to think if there's like a multi-legged
I don't remember. It's been like a year
robot.
since I played that.
There's probably like a multi-legged robot that you got to fight. In
I
that
bet
thing.
there's a spider robot.
Yeah.
I bet like some of those old Final Fantasy games, right?
Oh, no, there are spiders in those.
In all of them?
Oh, yeah.
6?
Tarantulas and
In 7, is there a spider in Final Fantasy 7? I would say no.
I don't
Prove
think
me
there is.
wrong,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
There's no way to prove you wrong.
no, Joe.
No.
Joe whips out a spider.
There you go. All right. Well, I'm sorry, Nick. I hope we gave you some suggestions.
I don't think Inside has a spider in it. He's mentioned Limbo. It's not an
Oh,
RPG.
yeah.
It's not an RPG.
There's nothing gross in
There might
Yeah,
be
yeah,
a
yeah.
multi-limbed
Oh.
thing in there.
Unless I'm wrong. South Park?
Hang on. There's a...
Ooh, South Park might be a good one. There are crab people.
Yeah, but
that's
those
true.
aren't
They have a
spiders.
They are.
sword.
You're right.
They are technically not spiders.
Reeves, for once, you're right.
Reeves. There's got to be a catch.
I don't know.
Wait, hold on. There's that sequence with the H.P. Lovecraft thing. That's like a spidery kind of thing, right?
Is it spider? I don't want to say the name.
Yeah.
But God, it might be.
We don't wanna spoil
spider-ish.
it.
By the way, Joe's 100% right. There's a spider
Yep.
enemy in Final Fantasy VII that I don't recall.
Maybe South Park. Maybe.
Forget greatest hits labels. What all video games need is spiders or no spiders.
I want to know bats.
Back of the
label.
box.
You just need to like start a website of like spidergamer.com that rates and reviews games based on the spider content.
That's right. Forget Mr. Skin. Just Mr. Spider. Come to me with all your spider questions. Spider-Man 2018? Unclear.
Questionable.
What do you guys like? Email of the week. I'm leaning towards the obvious, maybe, but Chris from Phoenix asking about the top 50. What we wanted to get on
Yeah,
there.
That was good.
that's fun to talk about.
That was,
Yeah.
led to a good discussion. I liked it was similar to that, but as our best gaming decisions of the year.
Oh, yeah? Do you like that one more?
I like that one. I actually like that one too because it was creative. It was
Okay.
kind of like I had to think about my gaming history of this year in kind of a different perspective.
And he is from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Let's do it.
All right, that's Henry. So we'll chip you out something real nice, Henry. Thanks for writing in and making us laugh so much. For now, stay tuned for the real meat of the show, where we go all into 2017. We recorded this in the past. Again, if you're watching the video version, I'm very, very sorry. I hope you still enjoy it, but it's a fun chat, so stay tuned for that.
Thanks for watching.
Damn it! I'm here. My name is Ben Hinton. I'm joined by Dan Tack,
Hello, hello.
Benjamin Reeves,
How's it going?
and Leo Vader.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh.
Leo's not just a disembodied voice.
I know, it's amazing.
He's
He's
a real
actually
person.
out here
I'm
in
an
the flesh.
embodied voice.
You can physically
here.
touch him, I promise. So I'm excited for this batch of people, this bunch of folk, because I have no idea what you all consider the greatest games of 2017. Reeves, I feel like I can predict yours vaguely.
Probably guess my top 3.
We might be a little bit similar.
Okay.
Everybody else, I wanted to get just what I would call the freak group, put them together for the podcast, and that's what we're going to do on this episode.
And
is
JV
run-
wasn't
Yeah,
available.
I was
or
going to
what?
say, where's JV then? 'Cause-
Wait, yeah. God, we should. Leo, can we set up more mics for the freaks?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And
So what we're doing, we're breaking down our top 10 favorite games of 2017. This isn't the Game Informer official. You can check out the new issue for that and see
Okay.
every editor's, but it's fun to surprise each other with our individual top 10 games of 2017. We hope that listeners and viewers aren't sick of hearing all about 2017 because it was a hell of a year and it's worth digesting. So we're going to go around the horn. 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9, 9. Going around the horn. If your game from earlier up in your list gets spoken about, speak your piece then. Don't double back and talk about it again. Reeves, we've done
But
this
you don't need to
1,000
say
times.
like what number it is.
We've done this.
That's right. That's right. Dan Tack, I believe we did this last
We
year.
did.
It's secret.
It's a good. I think the format's pretty nice.
I think it is nice. I completely agree.
And we don't know anybody's list yet.
That's true.
Yeah.
I like.
So that's the thing. We are recording this in the past, so it's a complete surprise that everybody has. I mean, if we did it in the current day, then it'd be like, oh, we know exactly this because we proofed the magazine, and that goes in the magazine, and everybody made fun of each other upstairs in the bullpen already.
Hi, future Ben.
How's he doing?
Hope that medical issue's fine. I hope that worked out.
Hey, Dan Tack,
Hey,
how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Pretty good.
About the year or about today?
Great about the year.
Really?
The year was a dynamite year for games. I think it
What
was
are your
difficult
favorites?
narrowing down a top 10, even having not played some of the amazing titles this year.
Yeah. It's so you never owned a Switch.
Correct.
After a year of me bugging you on this
That's right.
podcast.
I still don't have one. I
Okay.
still to be since we're bringing this up, I still
Yeah.
plan to have one. Hopefully, I have one by the time this airs.
What if by the time this airs, you start playing, I'm not going to name a Switch game, but one of the big ones, and then
Yeah.
you say, my God, what have I done? And you run to the printer of the magazine, you start clawing at the
I wouldn't do that.
paper mills.
How do I get arms on there?
I'm really comfortable with my choices. I can't put games that I haven't played on there, so
we can't.
No, Leo, I'm
it makes
sorry.
it makes it difficult to make one of the top games. In my opinion, you could put whatever you want down, but
Thank you.
Dan Tech, number 10.
number 10 is Horizon Zero Dawn,
Great one.
squeaking
All
in
right.
at 10.
The
Yeah,
old squeaker.
10 was a tough slot, you know, stuff moving in, stuff moving out. But Horizon made the cut, you know. I'm maybe not as hot on it as some other people in the office, but it's still really, you know, I think it was a sweet game. At least enough to hit my top 10.
Absolutely. What did you love most about Horizon Zero Dawn?
It wasn't so much the open world, more of the fact that you weren't just, you couldn't just go in and smash the button to win your encounters. I like the whole setup to take the dinosaurs down sort of kind of thing.
Did it rekindle your Monster Hunter love?
No Monster Hunter love. I did like I didn't so much like the bandit outposts or any of that stuff, but when you took down the different dinosaurs, figuring out how to approach them was really interesting to me.
That combat system surprisingly deep. I think it took me like half the game to really wrap my head around it, but just the idea of like using all the different like weapons you have and like setting up traps and like trying to take off parts of like the robot's body and like slowly whittling them down was actually surprisingly fun, I thought. Like once I got into it, because I'm used to like diving into an encounter and just like shooting things until it's dead, but you had to be a little bit more tactical with Horizon, which, to its benefit, I think.
Yeah, definitely. The fights felt like they had weight to them, and you had to like, you know, use your brain a little bit. You couldn't just walk right in and say, hey, I'm going to shoot this big T-Rex. That would end pretty badly usually, right? And you know, also the story wasn't completely terrible, which I also enjoyed.
If you like listening to holograms, I feel like I also really enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn. It had, maybe it's just because I was trying to play through with the entire thing over Thanksgiving break, and I felt like it was ending for a good 8 hours there, because they do the biggest BS thing. Number one BS thing on all of planet Earth. Throughout all of human history. Absolutely. The biggest BS thing is they say, hey, you're going into this cave, no going back. Point of no return. Get ready. Have you done all side quests? Get ready to go. Head on in. And then you go through, and then you beat a boss, and then you come back out, and it's like, all right, we got about 6 more hours waiting for you. Like, you can't, cry wolf on, hey, this is it, because that's such a sweet moment in games, and then it makes everything after that just feel like bonus. When is it going to wrap up? And there's some cool moments after that, but it still had this feeling of dragging on because they shot that flare out
The
early.
Witcher 3 had a similar, very long, drawn-out end.
Yeah.
Like, hey, warning, the game's almost over in 10 hours. Like,
But
I'd agree with all that. I think that actually, for me, it was actually much stronger at the beginning of the game than at the end. Like, I really like those initial forays where, you know, I mean, spoilers, but it's been a year.
For the beginning? Spoilers for the beginning?
Yeah, for the beginning. Like, you know, when you're out with the group of braves or whatever, and all of a sudden, boom, everybody you know is just like getting gunned down, and you have that was like, whoa, where'd this come from?
There's guns? Like, what the hell is happening?
I really like the stuff like that. And then when the mystery was unexplained, it was also a cool yarn to unravel. I don't know if it completely paid off in the end, but I think they at least nailed it. It wasn't like a complete cop-out ending or anything like that.
And I'm going to keep it ambiguous with spoilers too, but I spent also an unhealthy amount of the game thinking there's a female character's name that they say over and over again, and she's an American scientist, except the name it sounds confusing to the American ear, and I spent so much of the game like, why is that character named that? That's such a weird name. But that's not important. Yes, absolutely. I feel like it wraps up. It has an interesting thread to lead you along. Also, it's a mark of a good open world game, I feel like, when you can fast travel, but I don't want to. Like, a lot of that game, I just spent like, oh, I even have to go all the way across the map. I'm just going to take my time, because that is the thrill, is just wandering on this trail. And
there's probably something you want to see on the way.
Yeah,
that was the case for me.
Well, some more red berries to pick up for the little health boost thing.
Yeah.
Sure. The controls just so tight. Combat was great. Also, you cannot say enough for a company's first open world game how technically sound that game is. Base level PS4 runs like butter.
It really does.
It's amazing. Tin Tech, great choice.
Thank you.
Ben Reeves, number 10.
Number 10, Wolfenstein II: The New Colossus.
I'm sorry. It sounds like you said Wolfenstein. That can't be correct.
Wolfenstein.
Do you mean Wolfenstein?
No.
Oh. Wait, are these two different games?
Yeah. It's a game about Nazis in America.
You seemed a little bit skeptical about like the level of hype, but it ended up you enjoyed it anyway.
I was skeptical about... I don't know what I was skeptical about. It's a weird game tonally, I feel like, because it's so like zany and like out there and like silly at times, and yet on the other end of the spectrum, it's like trying to take certain things very serious, like certain stories and certain like emotional things very serious.
Very mature topics covered, yeah.
Right, and so like on some level, I had to like just sort of embrace that, and it's incredibly fun when you can just embrace the like crazy sci-fi pulpness to it. And I'll be honest, I cranked down the difficulty a little bit just to like wipe the floor with the
Guys, let's
Nazis,
get outta
and that's
here.
fun.
You don't have to listen
Guys,
to this hack.
it's just fun to shoot things.
Call us when you're done. We're gonna head out.
Okay, I'm gonna go home and actually play the game. No, I mean I think it's a lot of fun, and the shooting is solid, and when you can just kill everything in the room, and there's a lot in terms of like moments and story moments, like probably the best moments of the year in that game. Like the biggest collection of like multiple times where I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! What I'm doing, or this thing that's happening."
It's just
is
crazy
really cool.
bold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We did a spoiler cast on it.
Yeah.
That they kind of covered the swath there. So go listen to that if you're interested. I thought it was good.
It is funny listening because I produced that spoiled, which you can find on Game Informer site or on YouTube, and not having played beyond like the first hour of that game, it's so funny to hear where it goes disconnected of like what like you never could expect where this game ends up, and that's cool that the moments make it shine for you.
Yeah, it totally did. And like I said, it's pretty fun shooting. Pretty fun shooting.
Sweet.
Text. And just every moment to moment, every level's different. Like that's the one thing I like is it constantly changed.
Yeah, Dan Tack is really thinking this one through.
Am I?
Yeah, eyebrows seem to be raised. Did you play Wolfenstein 2?
I didn't, which is why I'm not.
Did you play Wolfenstein?
I'm listening and taking it in. I did not play that one either. Neither of those games.
Leo Vader, number 10.
My number 10 is Assassin's Creed Origins.
Interesting. You seem pretty hot on that.
I love that game. I've always enjoyed Assassin's Creed games at the same moderate level, and this is the first one that's really stood out for me as an exceptional open world.
So you think this is like your favorite Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, wow.
Even Ubisoft games in general, I feel like they are a company that's great at making big open worlds that are pretty and pretty diverse. But as far as filling them with stuff to do, I think Assassin's Creed Origins is better than they have been with that. Just every single city will have just 10 outposts within it that are just buildings with treasure that you can scout out or bosses to take out or whatever. Feels like you can always just run around the city.
So not necessarily like side quests necessarily, just
right. Although I do like those too. But
okay. Yeah. Is it the world overall? Like, is that the star of the show?
That's a big part of it. I think the combat's really fun. A lot of people say you can get in there and brute force everything, which you technically can, but I don't know why you choose to play a game in a way that you don't like. Because I really like doing stealth bow stuff. You know, bows? Yeah.
Sweet.
Doing stealth blade stuff.
Oh, okay. I know blades.
Like that?
Oh.
Yeah.
Blades, bows.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
I played that game up through the Alexandria part, which is one of the bigger cities you get to early on. I was like, oh, this is a pretty good city. It's pretty big and like meaty and like a lot of cool things to look around in. And then I kept zooming out on the map and I'm like, oh, this is actually a really small part of this world. Like, so just like the scope of that world is impressive to me, and like how big it is and how many like people were talking early on in the office about how cool the art was in the game. Like just from an artistic standpoint, I'm like, how interesting it was. And I'm like, it's just a desert, like in some level. But the more I played that game, the more I realized, like, oh, actually, there is a lot of diversity to this world, and they did a good job, like bringing it all together.
Yeah, I agree. It's a game that's like full of ideas in a way that not a lot of Ubisoft games are. You know, I've got this sword that brings me down to 1 bar of health, but I do a ton of extra damage. There's all these papyrus puzzles that are just, you have to solve these riddles. There's no waypoint or anything. You've just got to find them on the map and dig up the treasure. It's really interesting stuff in that game.
Assassin's Creed, I feel like it has a lot of baggage. People might be scared of it. Like, say, is it to a point where just Witcher 3 fans or fans of other action RPGs are okay diving into this one, and it won't be just a constant barrage of Assassin's Creed teasers that you don't care about?
I would think so. There's barely anything tying it into the overarching story, and the stuff that is there is just really interesting and alluring. It makes you want to check in, like, what happened in those games? Should I be following that story more?
So it makes you feel guilty a little bit then. Do you have to like look up old cutscenes on YouTube and stuff to understand it?
Yeah, Wikipedia pages, for sure.
But that's optional.
Totally optional.
Okay, thank God. Yeah, I should go back to that one. Got to go back to that one.
It's long. I'm like 40 hours in and not quite done. Yeah.
Schnikey.
Jesus. My number 10 is the opposite. It's shorter, and I think that's what makes it shine a little bit. Uncharted Lost Legacy is my number 10. I went in a little bit skeptical. I may have critiqued it a little bit on the GI show, but you still just can't resist Naughty Dog making something unique, making something cool. I think those environments were cool to explore. Some great climbing on giant elephants, and some amazing technical work. And overall, turns out I still enjoy Uncharted's action. Reeves, where you land on Uncharted Lost Legacy?
I liked it a lot. So I think I said to this might have been off the podcast, but I was like, Uncharted 4, my favorite game of the last year. It was my number 1. Lost Legacy, it didn't even make my top 10. Like, it's kind of sad. I did like the game a lot, but it's just like, it's kind of like more Uncharted in a good way. It's like everything you like about Uncharted. Some good set piece moments.
Yeah.
I think the story didn't quite hit me on the same level that Uncharted 4 did.
It's I mean, it's tough to put Naughty Dog against itself, and especially in the last 5 or 10 years, but it's middle of the road Naughty Dog storytelling, I'd say, if you judge it based on the last 10 years.
Which, if you judge against every other game out there, it's like,
yes,
A-list.
Yes,
know?
yes, that is exactly the situation.
They should quit making games.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop right now.
Just write short stories.
Please.
That's all I want.
Dan Tech, number 9.
Number 9. It's a little game they call World of Warcraft.
This
What
guy's
year is it?
joking.
What is this?
Yeah.
So yeah, you know,
Hey, Hoobastank called.
that's a good one, man.
You ever
I
heard
was
that one
scared
yet?
of that one. So Legion came out last year.
Yeah.
But basically, par for the course for the last decade or so of well, not decade, 5 years of World of Warcraft has been expansion comes out. It's really great, but the buzz and the content wears out real fast.
Yeah.
Because you blow right through it, right? So they've been amazing this year at actually giving people more dungeons, more stuff to do. Just keep rolling it out, and they did a great job on the Legion story arc.
Wait, okay, so there's no expansion, but just they went all in on updating this thing?
Yeah, lots and lots of content all year round. So instead of having like something that they struggled with in the past was like release expansion and then no content till next expansion, more or less.
Yeah.
And definitely did not see that here. They continue to offer amazing support, very substantial content stuff throughout the year.
What was the best piece of content throughout the year?
Well, so what I hear it's the latest raid, but I haven't actually had time to do it.
Ah.
So,
But
only
beyond
stuff,
that,
yeah, there was plenty of other dungeons activities and other raids to go on during the course of the year. It's good stuff.
Have you ever done the math to figure out how much money you've spent on your WoW subscription since 2004?
Oh my god! I haven't kept it active the entire time, but we should figure this out. That would be easy to do.
How many homes can you buy?
And we could actually we can tell you that number. We can figure that out.
Okay.
We're
I'd
gonna
love to
number on
post
screen
it
right now.
I'd love to post it and cry about it.
Just a news story.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Here's the things I could have bought instead.
That's
sorry to interrupt. It's $40. I just looked it up.
Oh, Jeff Cork, $40, pretty good,
All right.
man.
That would
A little video game? That's
That's
for
all the
kids,
games
man.
definitely wasn't $40.
Sorry, Jeff Cork. I feel like that's inaccurate. Dan Tech says that's not the case. That it was
No,
more than
it's well, I rounded up. It's $39.
$39.
Yeah.
Okay, that
Dan
makes more
Tech,
sense.
I'll
That's a
be damned.
great deal
Good
for
job,
for the years.
That's really cool. Do you feel like this is a new template, a new standard for WoW, or
I
is it
do.
just a freak year?
I think this is they've been saying for years and years, we're going to fix this. We're not going to have another thing like that. And then they didn't do it. But this time they did do it. So I think they can keep moving forward. They've obviously got processes in place to make sure that they don't have another Pandaria
Oh, really? That's
situation.
the low point?
As far as like a content dearth after release.
Yeah, and pandas are silly. We should point out Jeff Quirk is switching this podcast. That's why he suddenly jumped in.
That's the problem. If you're watching the video, I would like to apologize. Seat of my pants.
Ben Reeves, number 9.
Number 9. It's a little game called Heat Signature.
Oh,
That
literally
sounds-
a little game.
That
Yeah,
is
it
on my
is.
list as well.
A very little game. And I like that game a lot. It's by the guy who did Gunpoint. Do you know his name?
Tom Francis.
Tom Francis.
I call him St. Francis after that work.
That's
Hey.
right. It's a spacefaring adventure where you kind of control a bunch of dudes. It's procedurally generated, and I'm the kind of guy that hates procedural stuff.
Procedures in general.
Yeah, and procedural shows. But I love this game. You take on a bunch of contracts, you fly over to a spaceship, and then you just go wreck their ship, basically. So it's tactical in a way that I love, but it's like all in real time. At any point you hit the space bar and it freezes time, and you can look through your items, and you have stuff that'll like teleport you across the ship. You have stuff that'll teleport other people and switch places with them. You have guns, obviously. Just the like variety of different things you get and how you mix and match those things together, and everything's on a cooldown. So you have to wait for one thing to cool down. You might be like juggling your equipment and like, oh, I got 5 dudes and they're all training their guns on me. How do I get out of this situation? I love that like seat of your pants. How do I get out of this terrible situation I've created for myself? And I had a lot of fun.
Hotline Miami meets FTL.
On Smack.
Ship rating
Yeah.
playground.
Yes.
Those are the keywords here.
Those are good keywords, and I think I like this game better than all those keywords.
Wow.
That's a hell of an elevator pitch.
And I
right
liked
there.
the FTL, and I liked Heat Signature okay.
And ships.
Or what? That was the
Hotline
wrong one.
Miami.
Hotline Miami. And I like ships.
Leo, what is it about this game that's tickled you so much?
It rewards being clever. There's so many things to do in any given situation.
Still
and
waiting for your reward then? Go ahead. No, yeah, please.
I came on this as a favor.
I know. Thank
Ooh.
you.
I think the procedural generation is some of the best I've seen, as in the variety of the ships. Not only based on which region you're in, you're getting different factions with different abilities, but I think just once you get to the higher levels with the giant ships, there's a great arc to all the levels. You know, you're getting key cards to move your way through the ship. Eventually, you can get to the captain. You know, if you cause an alarm before then, you're in huge trouble.
But if you cause an alarm, you can like run to the captain's quarters, shoot the captain in the head, and then you're like the alarm will deactivate, and then you can like pilot the ship into like some like space station and crash it. Like it's pretty cool.
That's what happens a lot. Is I'll start an alert, I'll pause, and I'll just think, how do I get to the captain's chair in the 10 seconds I have?
Also, really my favorite thing to do in this game is like usually the missions involve you going and capturing somebody or going and like stealing something. So I'll go get that thing. And then I blow out a window and I just get sucked out into space. And then I remote control my ship to come pick me and whatever I had up. That's pretty good.
Amazing. So when it comes, I mean, Reeves mentions Wolfenstein for its scripted moments of the year, but is it just little story generator moments of the year type scenario for you, Leo?
Totally. That's what I told Reeves is like, as far as games that generate stories, it feels constant.
Yeah.
It's just stories constantly pouring out of that big old story machine.
Take that, Naughty Dog. Come on. Taking a year to make Lost Legacy. Let's go. 25 seconds.
Come on.
Play Heat Signature. Great choice. Great choice. Leo, number 9.
Number 9 is Agents of Mayhem.
Whoa.
Get the fuck out of here.
What?
This is amazing.
I expected to be met with a chorus of, that was on my list as well.
Oh, that's what we were saying, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I'm blown away right now.
This is shocking. Kyle brought it up in the underappreciated games of the year, and we roundly mocked him. And I thought everybody had learned their lesson trying to defend a good game. But apparently, you're still out there doing it. Agents of Mayhem, please convince people to check this out.
Hey, I'm going to be honest. I love a good podcast game.
Which
Which this was. I like the art style of the cutscenes. Of course, the writing has been appropriately mocked, probably, on our very own YouTube channel, some might say. But the combat, I think, is very intricate in a way very few people appreciate. And it's very accessible, yet there's so much customization. You can make certain builds for certain characters that'll like focus on one ability or one type of gun. And you can also have a lot of fun organizing your teams of 3. You know, you've got somebody for crowd control, somebody who shoots at range.
And so you're like swapping between all these people in open world action.
Yes.
Is it a quick swap?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple seconds.
Okay. That seems all right. So you want people to play Agents of Mayhem? You want them to give it a shot?
I think if you see that on sale for $20, you'll be glad you got it.
There's 8 other games out there that you think people should play first, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's weird that this is like from the guys who did Saints Row. And what I liked about Saints Row wasn't really the action. It was like just this insanity and like the humor was pretty funny most of the time.
Yeah.
And this seems like it's completely the opposite, where the humor just falls on its face, but the action's like, wow, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah. And it just feels really good dashing around. I like it.
I'm really curious about the podcast game angle. Like, this is the game for you throughout the year where it's like, I'm just going to listen to podcasts, zone out, and just have some good old-fashioned video game-ass fun.
Exactly.
That's it?
Yeah, very arcadey. Don't have to read very much, which I like.
Oh, don't get me started on reading.
Boo.
Get out of here with your books.
Reading is actually my number 1.
Mine
too.
Good, though. I appreciate it.
I liked in the middle of our top 50 debate and game of the year debate, Leo suggested, can't we just give the number 1 slot to having fun? You said that and it was funny, Leo.
At the time, a lot of people laughed.
Yeah. Anyways, my number 9. Controversial, Dan.
Is it? I mean, that one was. You're not going to be able to beat that one.
I think I might beat it.
All right.
The game is literally just tapping on a screen, and not even with the great sense of progression from a dumb tapping game, but in the same way that I thought the game sucked last year with Pokemon Go, but the experience was notable and one of my favorites of the year. Number 9, I'm giving to HQ, the trivia iOS game.
I don't think that's controversial.
Oh!
I love that game.
Yeah, that's mine. Number 8 as well.
Holy cow. All right. HQ, it's that live streaming trivia game where someone gives you a little alert in your pocket twice a day, and then they come on the screen, and it's just trivia. And I'm a guy who loves trivia. I love bar trivia. This has removed any need for bar trivia in my life because you answer 12 questions, you might actually get paid at the end. It's a real hoot. It is a novel, weird experience. I love playing it with a group of friends or in the office when we gather around to play it. It's just fun to have this weird communal, futuristic sci-fi streaming into your pocket take on old-fashioned trivia, and I really, really enjoy it. Dan, and I won't have you attack me anymore for it.
I think it's a great game. It didn't make my top 10, but I do play it.
Wow,
it's a lot of fun.
Wait,
yeah.
where are you every day when we play in the office?
Right.
You never get up.
I can't play in the office because I don't have an iPhone. It's only on iOS.
But you
as
could
far as I
help
know.
us.
Well, yeah, you could sit with us in the corner.
Sit on our lap.
Yeah, sit
I
on
mean,
our
yeah.
laps.
Well, now you're talking.
Hey, Mama Booey.
Never got invited.
Hey.
I will say it was a funny moment in our top 50 discussion where we were talking about what are the top 10 dorks of the year. And Hanson, you brought up Scott is his name, right?
Yeah.
He's
the
kind
Trap
of
Trebek.
He's a kind of a dorky guy.
Kind of.
Yeah.
He's clearly one of the dorks of the year.
He makes a lot of dorky jokes. He calls everybody apes cuties, and everybody in the office was like, "What are you talking about, Hanson? He's so suave and handsome."
I thought everyone was respectful
I don't.
towards me.
Yeah.
No, of course everyone's like, it's just dumb. We're moving on.
I got some really weird recollections going on here.
It was a complete mockery, but it was definitely a little bit of that. Stop being Hanson-y about it.
Yeah,
We're moving on. Type
Whatever.
Of vibe.
What is this?
When clearly he's number one dork of the year in my mind, in this podcaster's mind.
He's definitely a lovable dork. The epitome.
Yes.
Of a lovable dork.
Yeah, lovable
Yes.
dork.
Yeah.
Dan Tech, number 8.
Number 8, Nier. Yeah,
There we go.
that's right.
Okay.
And full disclosure here, I'm only a few hours into this game,
That's outrageous.
and I'm
All
already
right,
making that.
What is this?
I know. I know. It got me at the end of the year where I broke down and said, like, I have like 4 hours to play something, and it's got to be one of these games that I have to like think about for end of the year, analysis. And it's just like, what do I got? All right, can't do any of these games that are going to take me 40 hours. So I guess let's just jump in this one and see what everyone's talking about, because it seemed like one of the most divisive titles, right?
Yeah.
This is like a love or hate kind of thing, and I guess I'm on the love side.
You're a lover.
Even just so far. That is
Yeah.
true. So
I hear you.
it is early to call, I know.
Yeah.
But it made my list all the same. I love the combat. I love the music. I love the atmosphere. These are things usually that drive me into, like, I'm not going to compare it to a Souls game, but I'm just saying the same aspects that pull me into that
Music
are sort of the same. That
Souls?
absolutely.
Really? I guess I'm not
Sparing
sure.
use in Souls games for boss
Okay.
fights really enhances the experience, and then no music anywhere else.
Yeah. I feel like the enjoyment for Nier is kind of it's shaped like some would say a valley, right? Where it starts out and it's like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, the music's great. Setting's interesting. All right, I'm curious to see where this goes. Once you get to the B ending, like the B scenario, it really stalls in my mind. I'm like halfway through the B scenario now, and I stopped there. I enjoyed what I played, and eventually I know it'll pick back up and start really making more and more twists on things. So I think it's a safe choice, Dan, if you're that enthralled by it, because it might dip a little bit, but if you spend more time with it, then I think it'll come through and
Right.
probably be one of the most notable experiences of the year for you. Wow, Nier Automata.
I know, right?
See, Ben Rees, all you got to say is that you love Nier Automata. Dan Tag knows the internet will love you.
Really? I said in
What?
one podcast, I was like, oh, it's maybe a little overrated just because everybody's talking about it.
Why
I
are
don't
you
know what
doubling
question
down
is.
on this?
Yeah,
Dude?
and then he drove home to his house and it was just in flames.
Yeah. I'm homeless now. Thanks a
That was
lot.
his wife kicking him out of the house for that, saying
That's
those
right.
radical podcast opinions.
Hey, Ben Hansen,
Yeah.
I'd be remiss if I didn't, in the spirit of Tim Terry, who's not with us, if I didn't call out former PC editor Adam B. Scenario. Gotta go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true. Adam Beesner is a very funny pun on Adam Beesner,
Yeah.
guy who used to work in Dan Taxold.
He did.
Great content.
Good job, Jeff Cork. Thank you.
I feel like Tim never left.
Ben Reeves.
Number 8.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm going to go with Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
Interesting.
The XCOM-like Nintendo game.
XCOM love.
XCOM Love, in fact, yeah. It's Mario plus Rabbids, and I remember at one point we heard about it before the game was coming out, and you're like, Mario plus Rabbids, this sounds bad. And apparently when it leaked, everybody else thought the same thing until they saw it, and they all fell in love. And it turns out that game is a lot of fun. It's a good strategy. It's a little bit more simple than XCOM, but it's not like a baby strategy game.
It gets
There's
hard.
actually some complexity to it, and actually is hard,
Yeah.
which
Have
I liked.
Have you tried? They recently added a multiplayer because there was the co-op in there at launch, but they
Yeah.
recently added competitive. Have you guys tried that?
I haven't
yet?
tried the competitive yet.
Okay, I'm kind of curious how that is because if it's just like stock Nintendo characters, I think that'd be kind of fun just to
That would be pretty
hang
fun,
out
actually.
that way.
I was happy with the single player campaign. I do wish that I could switch out one of the rabbits. It's like, why do I always have got a rabbit in there? You always have to have Mario in your party, so there's certain limitations, but
Yeah.
just the suite of abilities that everybody has, whether you can like bring dudes in, like have a guy sing a song and they like guys come in, or I loved that's a thing. Like you sing a song and all the guys kind of come closer.
You're
to
making that up.
Well, go look it up, check the tape. Or Mario Luigi sorry, Rabbid Luigi has a thing where he like runs through dudes and he like vampirizes them. So when you shoot them, you can steal their health. So just like using all that stuff in conjunction, like there's some surprisingly rich strategy to it.
Yeah,
it was fun. It was one of the best games on Switch this year.
Yeah, I think you're right. Leo, number 8.
Number 8, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
Number 8.
There must be a typo.
Hold on.
8 is
That can't
lower
be
than
right.
number 1.
He had Agents
Hold
of
on,
Mayhem
that can't be
last
right.
game. Just FYI.
Turn it on its side.
Did you
Wait a
crunch the
second.
numbers?
Oh yeah, it's at number infinity. Thank you,
There we
Mickey
go.
Reeves.
Infinity, comma, all time. Number 8 for you. Why is that?
I don't want to dwell on the negative here.
Okay.
So let's move on.
Well, for one thing, I'm sure it's on someone else's list here. So, like, if we're gonna discuss it now,
That's true. If we want to save for someone
Dan
to gush
Tack
it.
wants to get this over with, huh?
no, we can discuss it twice. I don't care.
You
All right,
scared,
Dan.
Dan?
All right.
What am I scared of?
Come on, you tell us.
It's not on my list.
Hell yeah. Leo, number 8. What did you like about Breath of the Wild?
I thought it was cool. People talk all the time about how it has a great sense of exploration.
Yeah.
And I think it really does, but it does it in such a simple way where it's just the sheer fact that you are seeing landmarks and making your own choices to go there.
Yeah.
I think just adds so much. That is like the core thing that really makes that game feel good to play and feel exciting. And
Yeah.
like I said to you earlier this year, I always remember what I did during a play session of Zelda.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being like a sea of doing samey things, it's like, oh yeah, then I explored this area and I finally mapped that out and I checked out this place for the first time.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah, especially coming so close to Horizon Zero Dawn. It's such a good reminder of just, man, I'm not a fan of the open world games, even though I enjoyed Horizon, but just I don't like checklists of things to do.
Mhm.
And playing Breath of the Wild, not even a huge Zelda guy, just going into that game and realizing, yes, this is what I want games to be. Don't tell me a goddamn thing. Just say, hey, you have to defeat Ganon, go for it.
Yeah.
Never feel guilty. Go have an adventure. It's not, and it's, people always make the case of like, oh, Skyrim, so many open world games, you can just go do what you want, but not removing all chronology from the experience, not saying like, you should be doing this, but I guess technically you could wander over here. Just Zelda, defeat Ganon, go any way you want, have fun. And I just love the amount of freedom, not even to mention the crazy physics and immersive sim aspects, if you want to take that angle, just of how janky and also delightfully fun that game can be, especially once you get Rivali's Gale and you can just shatter
go
everything
all
in
over
that
the
game.
place. Yeah,
It's amazing.
Oh, it's great. If you haven't really played yet, I recommend going to get in the climbing gear and then go get the bird dungeon done. The bird area, upper left. Take
upper
care of
left.
it. Yeah, it's good. But there's so many.
I like the idea of following up. You can do anything. There's no right and wrong way to do it. It's all about exploration. But here's
Do this and this and this first.
Here's the open world checklist you really gotta get out of.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, go enjoy that game however you want.
Yeah.
It is one of those things where like the world's full of so many things to like interact with, and you'll see something, you're like, oh, I gotta see what this is about, and like you find a treasure chest or something, or you run into somebody and like starts a side quest or whatever. And there's so many, or there's a lot of things you do that don't start side quests is actually my point, because there's so many games out there that they'll have these interesting mechanic things in the game and they create side quests around them because they want to show them off. And it was like an interesting move for Nintendo, I thought, to like not create a bunch of side quests where it's like just enjoy the world and explore it and have fun. And I think I actually did enjoy their world more because I wasn't just following a bunch of checkpoints around the map and like, all right, I got to go do this thing and this thing and this thing now.
Yeah.
Like, it was way more interesting to explore that world because of it.
And it would have been not easy, but it would have been so natural for Nintendo to start to bleed into the open world genre and start dabbling with those basics. And just the idea of just zigging when they're expected to zag with open world design and just say, whatever, you can do anything, no real progression, get all your equipment out of the gate, go have fun. And just to nail that unique take in such a big, bold way.
Actually, when I first started playing, I was like kind of tempted to think like, well, Nintendo's just being lazy by not creating some of that side.
You were shouting
content.
lazy devs at the screen.
You lazy guys. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh, it's actually kind of a clever move and pretty bold to like, you climb this tower, like the towers in Far Cry, to like open up your map. But when you open up that map, like nothing, it doesn't open anything other than the map. Like you have to go and create all those waypoints yourself. And it actually, like, I had more fun with the game because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Motorcycles are pretty cool too.
And the paraglider ruined all other open world games.
And climbing, the climbing paraglider thing. I think that was the most eloquent Kyle was on the podcast back when we talked about the game's review, was just talking about how it completely shattered his concept of navigation in an open world game. It's just, it is so simple, but at the same time, just amazing to have that much freedom and that much Ability to get around the world.
Oh, so eloquent. Reminds me of Kyle on the podcast.
Captured his essence really well.
My number 8 is Dentek. I don't want you to give me that look.
You said the
another
last
oddball.
one I was gonna balk at, and I actually liked it. So
Okay.
This one you're really gonna hate.
Yeah, Dentek,
Yeah,
you're
but
gonna
this one.
crap your dirty pants once I tell you this.
oh,
one.
okay, I
Ready?
can't wait.
Number 8, Switch exclusive. I take that back. Not a Switch exclusive. Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Oh, what's that smell, Dan?
This one's a little more questionable, I think. But
I'm a real sucker for Tetris. One of my favorite games of all time. Even if it was just baseline Tetris on Switch, not too shabby. I feel like the Puyo Puyo package, having to wrap my mind around finally understanding Puyo Puyo, the
Puyo
fusion
Puyo
modes,
pants.
Puyo your pants up, as Tim Curry would
I
say.
can't after that.
So, no, just also having a great competitive Tetris on the Switch. It's the most fun I've had with like multiplayer mobile Switch games this entire year. I absolutely adore this game, Dan. It's a great version of Tetris, fun version of Puyo, weird odd jobs in there, campaign. You can largely forget about that, skip the dialogue, all that stuff. But just having a Tetris game with so many options as well, choosing different music, choosing the way the shapes look. Love it. One of my favorite experiences of the year is just playing way too much competitive Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Who's your main?
I choose I don't remember her name, but she's the pretty lady who screams lipstick, and she just says forms of makeup and stuff as her taunts. It's very, very good.
Dan, I think you'd be a big fan of hers.
I mean, yeah, I guess I'll have to give that game a look when I pick up my Switch.
That's right. Any day now.
Promise me, Dan.
I promise you I'll play a game of it at least.
All right, there we go. Dan, number 7.
Number 7 is actually Hearthstone Kobolds and Kobolds and Catacombs.
Interesting.
It's the expansion. This is the best thing Hearthstone's ever done.
What?
I'm speaking
Whoa.
strictly of the single-player content.
Yeah.
The roguelike dungeon crawl. It is unbelievably fantastic, and you can play it without having to do any of the competitive aspect of the game. You don't even need any other cards. It is astonishing what they put together here
It's
for
really good.
a roguelike single-player experience. It is just stupid good. Even if you don't play Hearthstone, I highly recommend you try it. It's like doing an old-school dungeon crawl where you get gear. You don't think of them as cards, right? You're equipping yourself with new stuff, going through, taking on bosses. It's an incredible experience and the best single-player content they've ever done for Hearthstone ever.
So you can just do the tutorial for Hearthstone, which is very, very good.
You do have
Go
to do
right into the single-player campaign here, and you'd be set.
It's not even a campaign. You can just do it all you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I love
sweet.
deck building games where you're kind of building as you go and
Yeah.
trying to spec in certain directions that only, last for that run.
Yeah.
And it is a really great version of those. You start out with a small deck, and by the end you have one that's just full of cards you love and are super
So
overpowered.
for the other single-player content, you'd have to bring your own deck to the table, right? And sort of make something that can beat the boss. And this one,
Yeah.
you're building it as you play, and it's fantastic. I recommend it, even if you don't even like Hearthstone, to try it out.
I played a ton of Hearthstone when it first came out, up through that first expansion, and I loved it, and then fell off super hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to the point where you're like, it's hard to get back into because, like, you're just not competitive anymore.
Sure.
So, but with this, like, this is something I could jump into and play and
Yeah.
have fun.
Again, even if you don't like Hearthstone, I would recommend this. This is it's an experience.
And it's free as hell.
It is.
Free as all hell?
It really is.
Wrap my mind around that. Ben Reeves, number 7.
Number 7, little game called Destiny 2.
Interesting choice, sir.
I'm a fan. I was a fan of Destiny. We've done
All
a lot
right,
of
okay,
Destiny things.
yeah.
Hey, all right, back off, man. Anyway, Destiny 2 is a fun shooter from Bungie. It's kind of like an MMO.
Is this the
You
back of the
go-
box?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
It's for 1 to 3
Activity
players.
for all moods.
It's hard to resist that like feeling of like watching the numbers go up, and Destiny is a really good game at like making you feel that like power of like, all right, my numbers went up. So, and it's a really like in terms of like shooting on a console, like Destiny 2 is probably the best shooting experience.
It sounds like you're making a case for Destiny 1. What's special about Destiny 2? Is it like the campaign above and beyond?
Do you like that they lied to you about which numbers were going up?
Look,
at what rate?
look, it's more Destiny is why it's on
Okay.
my list.
All
And
right.
it's number 7, so it's not like the highest game.
That's fine.
But I still have fun with that game. I still like the core concept. It's still a really good game, and my helmet looks really cool.
What about Failsafe, though?
No, she's definitely deserving a spot on our Dorks of the Year list, for a good reason.
Okay, take a
I did not like her at all. And what was funny is like talking to other people who are like, "Oh, I liked her." I'm like, "All right."
Hey, Leo, do you recognize that voice?
Oh, that's kind of familiar, yeah.
That's the sound of Leo after we sarcastically watched Dumb and Dumber 2, and then he sarcastically added at the end the classic line,
I liked it.
Still works.
Good inside joke!
Yay,
All right.
you're in on it.
Leo,
Welcome.
Number 7.
Hold on, I feel like I was like super defending myself against Destiny 2, but it's a fun game.
Of course.
I had a lot of
That's
fun
what
with
we
that
do
game
here.
this
We
year.
defend our choices.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah, yeah.
all right.
Hell yeah.
All right, Leo, go ahead.
Number 7 is Yakuza 0.
No, cool.
Yeah. It was early this year. I almost forgot it even came out this year.
Yeah.
First time playing the series, but I
Wow.
fell in love with it. The combat is so much fun and really great writing and cutscenes, really flashy, cool action cutscenes.
Wow.
And some genuinely touching moments.
Did it fit a completely different slot than Agents of Mayhem for you? As far as like, it's not like a good podcasting game. It's like this one you're actually paying attention to every story beat along the way.
Yes.
Okay.
And also just because I like, the music and the sound of the hits so much. You're missing out by not having the audio on in that game. I
So
felt like.
I haven't played it, but from my understanding, it's just like a bunch of like zany stuff happening, right? Isn't that? Am I understanding this right?
There's a lot of zany stuff in that game for sure.
Okay. But you like the
main
writing, like the serious like writing is actually really good on top of that.
Yes. The main story is largely pretty serious, and that's all written super well and takes some super interesting turns, I thought. But a lot of side missions is when they go totally crazy and have the characters just doing banana stuff. You're playing a claw game 10 times in a row to win something for a little girl.
All right.
Just weird fun writing.
Wow. Are you like a Shenmue fan? Is there any precedent for you liking this stuff?
Not really. I don't
Okay.
think so.
Have you been to Japan?
No. Well, by the time this podcast comes out, I'll be in Japan.
Hell yeah.
Whoa,
That's
whoa,
awesome.
whoa. You shill.
My
Great country.
Every game.
My number 7 is Horizon Zero Dawn. There we go.
Good
Overlap.
choice.
Dan
Wait,
Tex.
what?
Yeah.
What?
We're having some overlap. That's
For
great.
some reason I thought you listed that last time. That was Dan.
No,
Okay.
he likes
You know-
it so much as his 10 and his 7.
What is this?
What I think is really cool is we've had like extreme diversity on these lists this year.
About
We're
time.
all about diversity here.
Right. But I meant like the picks haven't had a ton of overlap. I know that'll change as we get higher, but
Yeah,
it's just neat to see.
absolutely. You know what else is neat to see? Dan Tex number 6.
All right, here we go. It's a little game we call Cuphead.
But
Yes. Now, I didn't think it was a perfect game by any stretch. It did kind of get frustrating at times. Like you didn't feel like you were making progress. You just hit A at the wrong time, and you mentally just do it over and over again until it clicks in your brain, and the fight happens. But I thought artistically and musically, all that stuff, like the audio-visual experience was just worth the ticket completely. Like
Yeah.
I was just for the majority of that game, I was just like, wow, this is really great. Like just I didn't even care that I was getting destroyed, right? Like, it was just like, wow, I hope that mermaid kills me again because this fight is amazing. I wonder what else she's going to pull out of the water.
Sacrifice myself
You
for
know?
Mermaid. Are
Yeah.
you a big fan of like the Mega Man style, old school?
I was a big fan of old school Mega Man.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is a little bit up your alley.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Mugga Man.
Mugman.
be honest. Is it who's better, Cuphead or Mugman?
Mugman.
Yeah.
I mean,
Easy.
hey. But King Dice is actually better than any other character in that game. So
King Dice. That's great.
You said Mega Man, but actually it reminded me of Gunstar Heroes more than anything else.
Yeah.
Which is another really great game if you like those kind of like side-scrolling shooters.
Yeah, I know they reference it as a big influence too. It's Gunstar Heroes. Great choice, Dan Tech.
thank you.
Hey, Ben Reeves, number 6.
Number 6, Pyre.
Pyre came
Yeah.
out in 2017.
Yeah.
Did you
that
mean
was a
to
huge-
write? Did you mean to write Prey?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Sorry, Prey.
Oh, okay, got it.
No, I really liked Pyre. It's if you haven't heard about it, it's a sports game, but it's like set in a fantasy world, and it's basically like you're in this like weird purgatory reality,
Love
and you're
it.
trying to send your characters back to Earth or back to reality, and you have to do that by winning these rights, which are basically like games of basketball in a sense, where you're trying to move the sphere across the board and put it in it's not a hoop, but a goal.
And if you've never heard of the game, Reeves is just making all this up.
Yeah, there's no
Spirit-
game
Spirit
called
basketball
Pyre. What are
game.
you thinking?
He's just waiting to get called out. Yeah, do you feel like underappreciated overall this year?
Yeah, you know what? Because I played it a lot and liked it.
Well then.
No, because I think people appreciated it who played it. I actually really liked the sports aspect to it, and I'm like a huge sports game guy, but I liked the basic mechanics of that gameplay. And then later on top of that is like a cool story where you actually get to know the characters pretty well. It's kind of RPG elements where you level up your characters and get really attached to them. But then if you win the tournament, you get to send one home. And so you want to send the guy who you've grown an emotional attachment to home, but at the same time, he's like probably one of your better players. So it's an interesting dynamic of making that choice.
Yeah, great choice. Hey,
Yeah,
Leo,
great job.
number 6.
My number 6 is the Sexy Brutale.
Sexy Brutale itself. Dantek it seems to be having some sort of facial reaction.
Well, you know, I heard a lot about the game in the office, not from Leo, but from the reviewer over here. And
Ben Reeves.
there were some definitely contentious issues that kept me away from playing it.
Game.
What did you give it?
I think I gave it a 6 something.
Okay.
Holy, so did Leo.
Okay.
Different kind of 6.
Yeah.
Number 6 on your games of the year.
6D. You.
We're having fun.
I am curious to hear why you liked it so much.
Let me put this in terms we can all understand. You guys ever play the Saw video game?
Wow.
No.
Why on earth would we do that?
I thought that game was really interesting. Obviously, far from perfect, but it was like a puzzle game with super high stakes, where if you didn't solve the puzzle in time with that constant timer beating down on you, you know, your character would die horrifically.
Yeah.
It sounds like some 999 level stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
It Saw. Like, oh,
It's yeah, you know, it's kind of like the movie Saw.
yeah, kind of.
Oh, okay. I saw that one, yeah.
Sexy Brutale struck a lot of those same notes for me, because you'd walk into an area and people would be about to die in a horrible way, and you'd have to figure out what the puzzle was and how to achieve it in time. And I had some really tense moments because there are such cool setups for deaths. There's one where this one guy is trying to steal this egg, and his hands get, you know, stuck on it because he's in this death trap, and his friend's like screaming trying to get him out, and I'm just sprinting around because I know what I have to do. I just don't know if I'll be able to do it in time, and that clock is just ticking on you. It was a really cool feeling.
I think you just like Saw a lot. Like that's what this sounds like.
I actually don't.
Hold on. I have no idea.
Okay.
Sexy Brutale. Reeves, what didn't you like about this game? Why is Leo wildly incorrect?
I thought it was a really cool idea in concept, but I thought the execution wasn't there. So I thought it was a better idea in concept than execution. And it's fairly repetitive, I thought, where I ran into the situation where Leo ran into several times over and over again, and I didn't complete the puzzle in time. So you had to like basically start the day over. It's kind of a Groundhog's Day setup where you relive the same day over and over again, and you're trying to save all these people. But if you don't do it, you have to kind of like relive most of that day over again. You can kind of skip ahead like 3 hours at a time, but it still takes a while to like get back to where you want to be.
Also, the story's very good, I thought.
Really?
In my personal opinion. You can find my review of the Sexy Brutale.
You don't actually need to clarify your personal
kids.
opinion. It's all our personal opinions.
Hey, baby, you can't be wrong. All
6
right.
out of 10.
Number 6. Number 6. This is tough.
Yeah, we're getting when we hit the top 5, that's where things really change.
Yeah,
That's
so
what makes it
we're
wild.
certainly not there yet. Number 6, a lot of swapping. Giving it to What Remains of Edith Finch.
Oh.
Coming in at number 6. We've
That's-
talked about it a lot on this podcast in the underappreciated game section not too long ago. But again, in the walking sim genre that people don't like to talk about as a genre, the absolute best. Just having that much variety in the gameplay, some great moments in there. Creative as all hell. A short, compact, awesome little story experience. Loved it.
So I've got this on my list quite a bit higher than 6. And yeah, I have to say, like, I typically do not enjoy the walking sim genre. I think it's most of the time it's extremely boring and it's not compelling because I think it'd be better served in a story or some other kind of format and not a video game.
Yeah.
But this one really nailed it. Like, it's an interactive experience, you know, that, you know, I don't really find myself gravitating toward these titles, but I could not put that game down. It's tight, it's smart, and it uses like the experiences to tell the story in such a like great way. It's not just like talking at you. You're in it, right?
Yeah, and it's such a weird mix too because variety in video games is inherently expensive or more complicated. And not to say that walking simulators are easy by any stretch of the imagination, but there is a certain budget factor to a lot of the most popular,
Sure.
you know, walking sim games. And the fact that this one mirrors that with so much variety that doesn't control like absolute ass.
Oh, yeah.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about that game. It's one of my best games of the year, and it's just a fantastic experience. And
It's only, what, 3 hours or so?
yeah, I'd say around 3 hours. 3 hours
But
if you
it's
like.
totally worth it.
Yeah.
Just sit down and you can play it in one sitting and have a really good time.
Stand up, you can play in one sitting.
Stand up, sit down, stand up, get an exercise in while you're playing.
Lay down, you can play in one standing.
Yeah, Leo's a great point. So stand up. Let's put our hands together for What Remains of Edith Finch. All right, Dantek, the coveted number 5 spot. Now we're into make or break territory.
We are. Number 5 is Nioh. Just an incredible, like, this is like having like a peanut butter ice cream cake or something crazy together. Like, it's got you know, randomized Diablo style loot and really tight, great action combat, crazy Japanese demons. It's like, wow, this game, give me this game again and again and again and again.
Don't stop, sir.
Seriously, a great game. and I'd recommend it to anybody who's looking for like a challenging action RPG.
Yeah, it came out on Steam. Did you check out that version as
I
well?
have not played the PC version.
But
I have
it's
not had
good,
time to go
right?
back.
People are saying the port's all right?
I honestly could not tell you.
Okay, but you played PS4.
Yes.
So PS4 or Steam is what's available
Came
on
out much
now.
earlier in the year, so it kind of got pushed aside.
Yeah.
You know? Like I think it was February or something like that. It was early in the year.
Definitely, it's one of those games. Yeah, I was talking to people about favorite games of the year recently, and people brought up Nioh, and it's like, oh yeah, I don't know, maybe it's just on this podcast hasn't come up that much in the last couple months, but don't overlook it.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
heard
I'm
Nioh
saying.
is the one.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah. Coming for the sequel, Nier Automata. Ben
Automa.
Reeves, number 5.
Number 5 is number 7, Resident Evil 7. That is.
Hey, mama!
Hey.
I'm gonna put you in this car.
Stay
See?
tuned, yeah. It was a really fun game that I liked playing. I'm a big fan of the Resident Evil series, but I have definitely not enjoyed the last few entries
Where do you
as
stand on
much.
Revelations?
Revelations was a step in the right direction,
Okay.
and I think this is even a bigger step in the right direction, where it kind of like goes back to the roots of Resident Evil in an interesting way, while changing the series at the same time, because it's first person, which I thought was an interesting direction for that. And I think it works because it is probably like the creepiest Resident Evil I've ever played at moments.
Really?
Yeah. There were some. Did you play through the whole thing?
Not the whole thing.
Okay. There's some moments where you're playing through where you're like, man, this is really intense, actually.
You're not a VR guy, right?
I'm not. I have played moments of that in VR. I hear it's even crazier, scary in VR.
Yeah.
And that's the way to play, obviously, if you have VR.
Do
And
you-
probably the only reason to play VR. So,
Do you feel like that's a game that got its due this year?
that's a good question. It was so early in the year where I think people have kind of forgotten about it by now, especially for top 10 lists.
Yeah.
And I think it's really good. I hope it sold well. I think horror fans should definitely play it. So if you got to like the Halloween season and you're like, I need a good horror game to play, hopefully that was what you turned to, because it's definitely like finding the item in an environment, taking that and using that to unlock this area. Like that whole mechanic of the original Resident Evils is there, but it's more compelling than it was in the original Resident Evils. I think it's really good. It's
Can
the
I
best
tell
Resident
you-
Evil in years.
A 100% true thing.
Yeah.
My old YouTube channel, to plug it again, this YouTube channel I don't work on anymore.
Oh, Christ. Here we go.
Episode of My Cody Report about Resident Evil 7, I gave it a 5 out of 10.
Whoa!
Oh, he's Sexy Brutale!
Mathematically, the
This
Sexy
is- this
Brutale
is getting brutal
is a
in
better
here.
game. Mathematically speaking.
Mathematically.
What didn't you like
man.
about it, Leo?
I didn't like the start or the end. I thought
Or
the
the
middle
stuff in
were
between.
some great, good few hours.
What about, without spoiling anything, just gameplay, story? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I didn't like how in the start it was constantly shifting between like, should I be using my bullets or am I just wasting them? And it's pretending that I can do anything to this boss when I'm really supposed to be running away. I found a lot of that stuff frustrating. And then in the end, when the plot kind of doubled back on itself and became a lot less interesting to me.
Sure. I'll agree with you at the end. The end, I don't think they nailed it. But man, the beginning, I actually really liked the beginning. I thought the beginning was kind of the more interesting stuff because it was like more survival horror-y than anything
Sure.
else.
Yeah, when you were just opened up exploring the house and the land around it, that was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Leo, prove Reeves wrong by listing a good number 5.
You want to hear a good number 5?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to come. This guy has been reckless endangerment all day
Wildcat.
here. Yeah.
Resident Evil 7's alternate title, Night in the Woods.
Aha!
Oh.
Interesting. Night in the House. Night in the Woods. Number 5.
Well, that's a whopper.
That's good. that show was the funniest show
A
of the
little
year.
reference for you guys who played that.
Hell yeah.
What struck to you?
Great writing, great music. I still listen to that soundtrack.
Yeah.
Only game that's ever approximated being in a band for me. And that was very nostalgic, those
Haphazard
sequences.
practices of
Yes,
button
and
presses randomly.
Yes. And
Yeah.
she was so rusty and not even very, especially good at the bass.
I
It
would
was
say
very real.
Greg is easily one of my favorite characters of the year. Just like you meet him for the first time, he's wearing cups on his ears. Like, all right, I'm sold. That's all you got to do to make a character lovable.
Yeah.
So if
that's
I
when
get
knew
Scott
it
from
was number
HQ
5.
to put cups on his ears, maybe
Yes.
he'll be able to squeeze in for that top 10 dorks
Character
list.
of the year.
Yeah. Also, fun fact that I repeated in the office 6,000 times, but I think it was on the Giant Beast cast. One of the creators of Night in the Woods talked about how Greg was fully based on one person from this Judge Judy episode. And so if you look on YouTube for Judge Judy best ending ever, he's the guy who says, "Love smashing things, gotta say we do." It's very good. It's very good if you're a fan of Night in the
I
Woods.
think Jeff Cork has a clip.
Jeff Cork doesn't know how to operate that kind of machinery.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Deer in
yes,
the headlights.
absolutely Night in the Woods. I say it too much, but it's the best Scott Pilgrim game I've ever played. Forget that brawler. Like, it just has such a good vibe of just hanging out with friends. It's funny. It gets dark. Ending goes off the rails a little bit too much for my likes, but I like the more grounded approach of just effed up teenagers, people in their early 20s, just getting back to the small town and trying to hang out. I feel like it's so unique, and not to mention that it looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, just the neighborhood, just beautiful. I love that you had to just, run a couple blocks every day.
Yeah,
and you would just run past people, and what they'd be doing would be changing. The seasons would be changing. It was a really great atmosphere.
Yeah, so unique. Great choice. Good job, Leo.
Thanks, man.
Come on, man. Number 5, a game that I was not a fan of out of the gate and ended up winning me over very hard. South Park: The Fractured But Whole. Ben Reeves, you remember this one?
Oh,
I played a couple hours of it. It was like, man, I hate this tactical combat. Not digging it. The story is not getting out of the gate with a clear thread here. To some extent, maybe because it was gutted and scenes that were going to be in the beginning of the game ended up being in the show this season.
That's super weird.
It was a mess. But after that hurdle, I got into a groove and just completely fell in love with, yes, I just love a good, relatively simplistic RPG, just that goes for it with a wacky, funny story, tons of personality in there. And the story ended up becoming surprisingly focused, much more so than Stick of Truth, which I also absolutely loved. But Stick of Truth, it was like a lot of, here's a little one-off. Now you're abducted by aliens. Now you're going to go over here. Now you're going to go over here.
Yeah.
Whereas Fractured But Whole, I was struck by like, holy cow, this is like a 15-hour South Park story that's actually maintaining focus, which is just unthinkable. And
I
there's,
wonder if it's because they took like 2 years to write it and they just kept writing.
I don't
Put a
know.
word a
something,
day.
Right?
Yeah,
That's
a
right.
word a day.
You just add one word a day. It adds up, man.
Yeah, and I feel weird having it as number 5 because you spend a lot of that game in combat, and I still was not super into the combat by the end. I know a lot of people liked it. It didn't convert me into a fan of tactical RPGs. I just can't do it. But there's still so much fun in those battles, especially boss battles. I feel like there's a lot of creative twists in there.
The boss battles were more interesting. I am a fan of tactical RPGs, and like this combat still didn't quite do it for me.
Yeah.
I think I preferred the Paper
Paper Mario.
style
course, yeah,
action
yeah.
from the first game, and I think I preferred that first South Park game as a whole a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just because like start to finish, it felt like smoother and like it was hitting on all cylinders more consistently
Yeah.
than this one did.
Yeah.
But this one has some really strong moments and really funny parts.
Yes, some really, really great moments. Not going to spoil anything, but like there's some pretty classic South Parky stuff where it's like, okay, celebrity cameo, this whole thing. But there's one moment in that game, we talked about it in our top 10 moments discussion, where it's like, I don't think I've ever seen South Park get so dark. And that says a lot. Like beyond Scott Tenorman, beyond all that stuff, it was just a holy F. Like it is crazy that they went to this place, and it's absolutely fascinating. I really, really enjoyed
South
that
Park
game.
was my number 11. I wish I could have
Oh, really?
made it on there, but
All right. Dan Tech, number 4.
Number 4 is this really cool game called What Remains of Edith Finch. Go
good
play
game.
it. Go play it.
Go play it.
Go play it.
My number, we're on 4, right?
got
is
it.
XCOM 2 War of the Chosen.
Hey!
It's the expansion into last year's XCOM 2, which is, I still think probably the best strategy game out there.
Dan Tech?
Definitely my favorite.
Dan
The best
Tech?
strategy game out there, and like what content? Like forever?
Chess?
Yes, forever.
Like just what is the scope here? What, in a year or like in 10
Well,
years? 5
definitely of
years?
last year. I think in a long time, Dan. What else you got?
I mean, Civ, you
Bring
know, like,
it.
not a Civ 6 lover there at all.
Firaxis. Screw those guys.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
No, yeah. We don't need to compare it to other games. I'll just say, like, in terms of like strategy, where you're managing a crew of dudes, like you're moving around the
What is it
battlefield.
with you and dudes?
The
I
dudes are
love
coming around. We're
dudes.
singing a song. There's just dudes. They come in.
You take out
Guys
these,
being dudes.
you take out
What's
these
better than
alien
this?
dudes. I just, in terms of the sheer amount of like things you can do with your dudes, like they have so much like
Do the
different
dudes.
abilities and weapons, and like your back is always to the wall because it's a pretty challenging game, but you
Yeah.
always have so many options at your disposal that I love figuring out how to like work my way out of a jam.
And having those celebrity aliens, I think is the best way to phrase it. You feel like changes up the overall flow and structure of the campaign.
Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about like what's special about this. Yeah,
Correct.
like they have the Chosen, which are like the 3 new aliens that come in,
Yeah.
and they are recurring characters, and they're harder than any other enemy, so it is even more rewarding when you finally take them down for good. and it's kind of fun to have that like vendetta. It's definitely inspired by the Nemesis system, and they do a really good job of incorporating that concept into this game. And then there's new factions, which are really awesome and do like break the game in ways that are just awesome.
XCOM 2 was super hard. I've heard
you could play it on easy.
Maybe I was
the Wolfenstein.
I really am terrible at strategy games. And I listened to the 3 Moves Ahead podcast, which is a very smart strategy podcast, and they were talking about XCOM 2, the way that the overworld works, or what would you call that, strategy level? Yeah, strategy layer. And even War of the Chosen, they compared it to like a inbox simulator, where it's just constantly flickering these messages on, like, hey, over here, hey, over here, hey, over here. And I never got the hang of that even in base XCOM 2. It always just felt unsatisfying to always just be pinged, like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. It's like, just give me a couple options here and let me forge a path. But just this constant poke of like, hey, look out, hey, look out.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it takes a while for you to get the flow of like, okay, what do I need to do? You need to like have a sense of like, what do I need to focus on? And the idea was to throw more at you than you can do. So there's more options and you have to make choices.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
I like good games though.
Yeah. And just to be clear, do you have to own the base game?
Somebody called me out on this. I think you can just buy that game and it all comes in one package. I think they sell a version of that.
Okay. Some sort of version of that.
Yeah.
All right. Prove him wrong, people.
Prove
Waste
me
your
wrong.
money. Leo Vader.
Hi. My number 4 is Dropmix.
What?
Yeah.
Dude, what?
Here we go. Dantech's riled up down there. You can see him.
That's a toy, right? Do we count that?
Yeah, toys are games.
All right. Well, can I bring my robot friend out here?
Is he effing cool?
Yeah.
Cool?
I keep telling you to bring your robot friend in because nobody believes you that he's real.
I love you, Dan.
See, there he is. There you go.
Oh, what are all those lipstick marks all over your robot friend?
He's got a good beard.
Dropmix, the Harmonix's little card toy game.
Yes. You've got
badass.
this portal, this long portal. You've got these cards with different pieces of different songs. You put them down, it automatically mixes them together. You can hit the button, it'll remix it into a new key, a new tempo. You can make some amazing songs and save them and listen to them to whatever, which is what I do a lot.
Yeah.
It's really fun. And we talked about that. It may be technically not being a game during the
that's
game of the year.
That's my only qualm with this. I think it probably is sweet, right? But like,
so sweet.
We don't do like Simon Says machines or other.
It's not. But to be fair,
to say my piece about that subject, I feel like it is a game in the way that a Toys to Life thing is a game. You've got
an interactive thing.
Yeah, portal peripheral. You've got the things you put on it. It needs the game to work, even though it's on your phone.
It runs. I mean, the game is on the phone. You know, it's not like it's in this light up peripheral necessarily. It's just where you place the things.
Right. It's just a Bluetooth device that sends the signal.
It's as interactive as Tacoma was.
Oh.
Wait, are you telling me Tacoma's not on your guys' list?
Look, we all love Tacoma in our own way.
Yeah, we did.
We're only going up to number 1 is why it's not on mine.
You know what? We brought it up in the discussion.
We did?
That's all right. Anyways, Leo, I think that's a very interesting choice. And so where does like the freestyle nonsense, which is fun, compare to the actual like game that they try and get you to play?
Now this is interesting.
Please go on.
Because the first time I played it was at your place.
Yeah.
We did purely freestyle and I had a blast for hours. And I bought it based on that alone.
Wow.
And then when I got it, I did freestyle. I had a friend over who was interested. We did freestyle. We're like, let's try out this Clash competitive mode. And it was immediately the only thing we ever played after that.
Oh.
Wow.
Wait,
okay,
how
so
does that work?
That's the 1v1?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, how's it competitive?
So you've each got your decks, which they have pre-made ones, but you can make your own. And there's a deck builder built in. You can build a whole stack of 30 cards, set it on the reader. It'll read all of them and count how much power.
That's
stuff.
awesome.
Yeah, what color they are. So you can build a good mana curve like Hearthstone.
Hold on, this sounds like
Mana
a
curve.
game.
It's really it's a really fun game, and I don't know if anybody knows about it, but we were just 1v1ing over and over again, building different decks, or just we had one pile and we were just drawing randomly. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and
I've
made
done
some great tracks.
I've played the party mode. Is that completely different? Do you think that's
Yes.
the lesser of the modes?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, because that one seemed okay as a game.
Yeah, it's totally fun palate cleanser. After you get used to competitive, it becomes very easy. Party mode does.
Okay.
But competitive, there's like it does remind me of Hearthstone in the simplest ways. If you're doing basic math and setting up combos, and those are the two satisfying card game things for me, and I love to do it.
I heard a rumor that you bought so many cards for Dropmix on Amazon that Amazon actually locked you out of your account, I believe, deleted your account. What did it do?
What?
Sure, what is it?
I bought a quantity of 3 booster packs, which was the maximum quantity you could buy. I got them, loved them. Let me buy some more. I put 3 in my cart and said, you can't order that many. We changed the quantity for you. They changed it to 0.
Wait, so Amazon's like, nobody buys this many packs? This must be...
I have no idea.
Guys, bring back net neutrality.
Uh,
Anyways,
what?
I don't know.
There you go, Dropmix.
That's
Totally
a cool
game.
choice. And I'm sure it was on sale like crazy over Thanksgiving. So I'd imagine over a Christmas break or even beyond that, that it might be a little bit cheaper than the $100 base price, which is a lot.
Yes, I don't know why they made it. It's doomed to fail, but it's very, very fun. Yeah.
Oh.
My number 4 is Night in the Woods.
Hey!
Hey!
Hey, look at that.
Dantec. Number 3.
Hey, number 3. We're getting into the big ones here.
Here we
the heavy
go.
hitters.
Big fish.
Number 3 for my list is a game that I have not finished.
You
What
poser
is this?
ass poser.
Number 3 and you haven't finished
Just
it.
That's right.
lie.
Oh, no. I like to full disclosure, you know. So it's Persona 5.
Well, nobody's finished
Yeah,
that.
that's
It doesn't have an
impossible.
ending.
Yeah,
This
why
game
didn't
is,
you just lead with that?
Despite me only being a mere 80 hours in, it is an incredible game. Just one of the best JRPGs I've ever played.
Are you past
ever.
like the opening title sequence then, or
80 hours? Yeah, you get a little bit past that.
okay? The title.
So I still
card?
have like 30 to 40 hours to go, depending on who you talk to, and I'm gonna get to it someday.
You won't.
I have to.
You won't. I bet next year you will not have finished that game. It is so stupidly, brutally long.
It is, but I never felt like that's one of the, to speak to its strength. I never felt like, oh, I have to stop playing now. It was just like I was just.
Except you did.
I got overloaded, man.
Okay.
I got just so
Yeah.
much stuff to do.
Dantec does review a ton of long games
That's true.
here.
That's true.
And yeah, for every style, art, everything, just the
Amazing.
system. Yeah, it really is.
All right,
Just
let's go.
incredible
Here,
game.
let's break it down. You tell me best Persona or no. Those
Yeah,
are your
it
two
is the
op-
best Persona.
Okay, but let me break it down here. Art.
Yes.
I'm sorry, your options are best Persona and no. Okay, right?
Okay, gotcha.
Art.
Yeah.
Best Persona.
Music.
Best Persona.
Why do we play this every week?
Characters.
This is
Not
better than
a- no.
Dropmix.
Oh, going with no.
No on that
Wait,
one.
which characters? What's no?
Best
I was only allowed to respond.
I
best
just wanted to
Persona
know what
or
the category
No,
was.
no, for the rest of the podcast, Dan.
no. Okay, we could do that. Yeah.
Now,
let's
what's your
do it.
number 2?
Okay, Overwatch.
Okay, just as off the rest. All right, no, Persona 5. It's a great choice. I'm glad.
Yes,
it's
it
represented
is.
Here.
Go
And
play that game. It's really great.
It is. Yeah, you got to see it. You should start that game. It's a stunning work of art.
It is a daunting task to get through, but
Yeah.
you're never gonna feel like you're I want to stop
Finished.
playing. It's,
Yeah.
it's crazy good.
Ben Reeves, best Persona.
Yes.
That's great.
Number 3 is Metroid Samus Returns.
Ah,
Little game called Metroid. The game that we've been begging for 10 years. And Nintendo finally gave it to us and then lit up the charts. Like, everybody can't stop talking about it.
people gave it. Nintendo gave it to us, and it's like when the waiter comes around asking if you want dessert. It's like I can't. I'm a little busy.
I have not heard a thud that loud. And it's just interesting how many people on staff are just huge Metroid fans and how many of them have not played this game. But it is an amazing game. And I think the fact that they announced it and like, hey, it's a new Metroid game. It's a remake, and people checked out immediately.
Yeah,
Maybe.
And
I think that
cannot-
hurt
Two
them a lot.
factors. I think not only was it because it was a remake, but also because it was on 3DS.
Yeah.
Those are
Right.
Two big.
Sure. I cannot stress enough that the remake thing is not a thing. Like, this is in every way other than name, and even in the name is different. It is not a remake. It feels like so
Well,
much of a new
They were lying to
experience.
us.
It feels, what I'm trying to say is it's so much of it is new, and it's such a new experience that even if you played that original Game Boy 2 game yesterday, you should still play this game because it's good. It's a new Metroid game, and it's everything you want in a Metroid game.
And if you cherish Metroid, you should cherish this release and let Nintendo know how you feel about it.
Exactly. You should probably say, "Hey, Nintendo, I like this game. Thank you for making this. Please make
Yeah.
more."
Because honestly,
I bought this one.
I heard a rumor. I seriously, hand to God, heard this rumor that if not enough people buy Metroid Samus Returns, they're going to turn Metroid Prime 4 into a Rabbids game.
What?
I heard that.
Whoa.
I heard that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Exclusive.
That's a heck of a rumor.
All right, Leo Vader, number 3.
Hey! Okay, very personal list. Number 3 is Sniper Elite 4. I did not get into the other games in the series. This game I got into this year, and was the most fun I had. Some of the most fun.
Hold on. Was this a joke?
No. What?
Leo, you're normally pretty funny. There's nothing funny about putting Sniper Elite 4.
This
as
game's
number-
incredible.
Did that even come out this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a real game? It sounds like
I remember that.
three
Yeah,
generic
that's-
words
yeah.
smashed together.
Okay.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's got amazing co-op.
Holy
Look, hang on. Hey, back off, you jackals. I'm going to defend fellow
right.
video guy Leo here.
Yeah, you do
This
that.
is why I invited him on this podcast, because we knew he was going to have some oddball choices. The rest of these have been oddball, terrible choices, and this is yet another, and we're going to defend it, because this is how he feels in his heart.
What have
All
I
right.
done?
All right. Sniper Elite V4 Part 3.
Did anybody play it?
I was too busy playing Super Combat Fighter to Third Strike.
I did not know that's
Yeah.
how we felt about this.
All right, help me out. Is this one of those World War II sniping things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Except it's set in Italy, an unconventional setting for a World War II game. Beautiful locale,
Okay.
amazing environments, very sandboxy. Play your way, lots of optional objectives, lots of hidden secrets.
And in
Great gunplay.
in a year where you also went back to Hitman so much, do you feel like it's kind of filling that Hitman itch for this year for you?
It totally reminded me of Hitman.
Okay.
With just if Hitman was like more focused on gunplay, I guess more like Absolution, except with the giant sandboxy levels of the latest Hitman.
Yeah. What about multiplayer? I really care about this because the idea of sniper battles I just adore. And I know that in previous games in this series they had cool multiplayer where you could like one-on-one have sniping battles. Is that in this case?
Yeah, there's good multiplayer. I didn't play that much of it. I focused mostly on the co-op when I was playing multiplayer, but
Oh,
there is
yeah?
competitive modes.
Wow. All right. What's
Yeah.
the name again?
Sniper Elite 4.
Reeves, will you turn that frown upside down?
You can play any mission co-op, and there's special co-op only missions, and it's just super fun.
I think Brian Shea reviewed that for us. And I think he said I'd rather suck my own poop out of my butt than play any more of that. I think was his exact phrase.
I think he gave
Yeah.
it 2.
Brian Shea, owner of everyone's favorite opinions.
No. That's cool. I know he thought it was pretty solid. So
Oh, great.
awesome choice.
Thank you.
Number 3, Super Mario Odyssey. It's gotta make it on this list.
That's a really good choice.
Odyssey, Super Mario Odyssey. What could you possibly say about this game that hasn't been said before? Wonderful levels, wonderful vibes through and through. You can pick up that game. I can't imagine a human being in the world, let alone at this table, that could play Super Mario Odyssey and not just be whisked away by the fun and delight and potential and just healing aura surrounding positive video games experience, right?
You'd have to be a monster.
Leo Vader, spotlight's on you, baby.
No, don't want to dwell on negativity. Everybody loved it.
Leo prefers not to play Super Mario Odyssey. The only person in the universe.
Well, I think
Wait, hold
I
on.
think we're learning what kind of person Leo is as we go down his
it's
list.
no
so this is
Sniper
not a-
Elite 8. No, come on. What? I know what you're not.
Good burn saying 8 instead of 4.
Yeah. You're not a hater, but what
No.
didn't capture your imagination about Mario Odyssey?
Just to get into negativity for a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, let's do it. I was hoping there would be more of the segmented little challenges and that the transformations would be more significant. You know, the character, what you do as each character would be more interesting.
Instead
But
of just having like one little mechanic.
exactly.
Okay.
And also, I didn't find the controls to be very precise, and I didn't like the motion controls.
Wow.
I understand the
Again, I
motion
need to try
controls
it again
thing.
with the Pro Controller, though.
Yeah, maybe
which
that
I don't
is
have.
the make or break for you.
Yeah.
Uh,
I hope all the people that emailed me about Nier Automata now email you about Super Mario Odyssey.
I know how dumb I am.
yeah.
I'll say, just to back you up, like Super Mario Odyssey is a good game. And
Finally, thank
it's
you.
like joy distilled into a product. And
Yeah.
it's like every moment of that game, it's like not skipping a beat. Like there's
Yeah.
always something fun to do around every corner. Like I love exploring those worlds. Like I loved getting all those like moons because even for like the dumbest, littlest like objective, you're rewarded with the moon and it feels good. And you're like, yes. And the little 2D sections are fun. Like they're not super hard, but they're kind of like fun diversions.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and then when you beat the game, there's like a whole nother game you still can play. Like go collect way more moons, way more stuff, unlock a new area with a harder challenge. Yeah, it's a blast.
More potent than heroin, as Ben Reeves said.
That's right.
repeatedly into a microphone.
I kept melting it down,
Yep.
injecting it straight into my veins.
There we go. Dan Tech, number 2 territory, man.
Yeah, number 2. We're getting here.
Toot toot.
This is a big one. This is a big one and a big game, and it was really close to being my number 1. It's
You should build it up longer.
I sure will. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Oh!
Yeah, this game is freaking incredible.
Number
And-
2.
Yeah, and I've been trying to think about, one of the reasons, besides just being awesome in general, but like one of the reasons I think it's so incredible is just like sort of the dynamic nature of the game. Every game is different. You never know where you're going to land. You never know what you're going to get first. You never know who you're going to fight. It's all on the fly, and it's all just legendary from the highs to the lows. Like, You know, the one game where you get completely suited and booted in the first minute, and then you don't see anybody for 10 minutes and you get shot in the head.
Love it.
That happens. But then there's also games where you're riding around with your friends in the car and just like accidentally stumble upon another team, like just everybody jumps out of the car and there's this huge firefight, like cinematic style. Oh,
it's
gosh,
crazy
it's good.
How it always feels wild. And I like the way my character looks now. I'm not roped in for a sense of progression in the least. Like, okay, I guess I'll get a new t-shirt. I really don't care. It's just wild that a game this simple can keep me coming back and keep players coming back around the world again and again and again for such a simple concept, but it's always fascinating.
No, it's crazy because like when you mentioned it, like, you know, when I'm playing Overwatch in the back of my mind, I'm always like, oh, okay, I'm going to get a skin soon. In this game, I could care less. I just want to get in the next game.
It's really fun, Dan. I recommend you do this at some point, to go back and listen to our first conversation earlier this year about PUBG.
Oh, man.
Because there was a lot of confusion about, like, what is this? And then I remember bugging you, like, is this the best Battle Royale game? You're like, I'm not going to say. But now it's fun that the full evolution, after spending so many more hours with it, you're blown away.
Not only that, you know, it was more hours. It has come quite a long ways from where it was.
Not on Xbox, but yes, absolutely. No, in some ways an Xbox.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, we're weeks out right now.
Yeah.
We hope.
Dan, since we're recording this in the past, we don't know your review score for PUBG.
It is a hearty 9.5.
Hey!
Heart healthy.
There we go.
You know, and it did suffer a little bit in the analysis, but you know, even though these moments are awesome, they can, you know, they're not part of the game. Like, you know, when you're in a car and it flips and then all of a sudden you just literally start spinning into the stratosphere and off the map. That can happen.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious, but like, you know, hey, maybe you wanted to play that game out.
Right. A lot of janky love in there.
Yeah.
Leo, I mean, how many hours have you put into PUBG this year, do you think?
120, I think, is the last count.
Oh my god.
Oh my
And you're a
gosh.
squad guy?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you serious about it? Seems like you're a little more militant in your squad than most players.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
We throw around a tango or two.
A niner.
Yeah, exactly.
What's-
Yeah, that game's an absolute blast.
How many times
It's my,
do you
it's my number
say-
2 as well, I'll just say.
Baby make 3. How many times do you say that?
Every third kill.
Oh, nice. Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Is there one moment that stands out to you as like your favorite PUBG moment of the year?
One of my many wins.
Oh, really? How
In
many
squads?
chicken dinners do you have?
I've had like 6 or 7 in
What?
squads and
Wow.
2 in duos.
Jeez, bring it down to the orphanage. Feed
You're
some
getting
kitties
full?
with all those dinners.
Yeah.
My God.
Is that a reference to something, the chicken dinner?
The movie 21.
They get chicken dinners at the end of it?
They have chicken dinner.
No, I'm
I think it's
just
a
serious.
saying in like poker, I think.
Because there's like
That's
a
where I first heard it.
comic, right? Where like he goes like an epic battle royale and then they get turkey dinners at the end of that. So I thought maybe it was a reference to that.
Yeah. You want to hear
But-
something confusing? Hang on a second.
Okay.
Lila. I was at a food truck recently, and when they're like, "All right, Ben," I went up to the food truck, got my food, and the chef goes, "Winner, chicken dinner." And I grabbed my food, and I was wearing like some sort of gaming T-shirt. I forget what it is, but that's all I own. And it's just this moment where I was like, "PUBG fan?" He's like, "What?" It's like, "PUBG, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds." I don't know what you're saying right now. I was like, why did you say winner, chicken dinner? He's like, it's just what people say. I was like, I know it's a phrase, but to say that in the year 2017, being a younger person and have no concept of what PUBG is weird, right?
It's from when you get comped at a casino.
Yeah, casino.
Is that right?
For the buffet, yeah.
Wait, this when you get comped? I thought it was when you won something at it.
Well, you did win, so they're like, hey, we want to keep you playing and make you enjoy your time here. So
So they eat you at a casino?
That's
no,
right.
they give you a chicken dinner, more or less.
Ah, crazy. I'm sorry, Leo. Story of the year, you're going to say.
Why isn't it a steak dinner? Like, let's be
Will
honest.
you stop,
Wouldn't we
Leo?
rather have
Story
a
of the
steak
year!
Chicken's a bit healthier for the heart.
Okay.
To zero in on one specific moment that I will always remember fondly, I was in a field, one of the last 3 surviving, crawling around, no healing, very low health, got my sniper out looking for people. My friends are spectating me, and they hear footsteps before I do. They say, Leo, he's on your left. I hurriedly switch weapons to my shotgun and spin over and shoot him once, and he goes down. And this is a point where if anything touches me, I'm going to die. So I kill him. I scream. I wake up everybody in my apartment building. I turn. I scope in on the other guy, and we're sniping at each other, and I barely managed to outshoot him and win the match, and I lost it. I couldn't sleep that night.
Sounds like an
So
epic
much
battle
adrenaline.
in Sniper Elite.
All
4.
right.
It was
come on.
nearly Sniper Elite 4 levels.
What's more thrilling than that chicken dinner?
It's fantastic.
I mean, I get to that end game scenario. 5 people left, 6 people left. Everyone's slithering around. It's the most intense gaming experience maybe I've ever had in my life. I've never had it fulfilled in any possible way, much like my life. But I'd imagine that's so satisfying. You know that at some point this year, somebody in the universe, in the course of one day, I'd imagine, but guaranteed, somebody has won a game of HQ and gotten a chicken dinner. Maybe at the same time, answering questions while playing the round. Imagine that thrill.
Then they die the next day.
Oh, yeah, everybody would. No human soul can contain that much happiness.
Yeah, you go right to heaven. You just skip.
Right this way, sir.
What do you have to skip?
The rest of your life.
The line? Or oh, okay.
Number 2, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Hey, 222.
222. Dan Tech, number 1.
Wait a minute.
Did we get reviews?
Oh!
Forgot
Make it a
which order we're
quadruple.
in.
Oh, that's right. Go for
So
number
my
2.
number 2 is Super Mario Odyssey. Sorry.
No, okay. So we're
Also
working.
still good game.
Yeah, we're all on the same path.
Just
You
switch it real
guys,
quick,
were all 2 for PUBG?
yeah, 2 for
Wow, we all
PUBG.
had 2 for PUBG. That's
crazy.
good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
Dan
now we're
Tech.
number 1. Here it is. The big one.
My only preamble for you is you cannot say a little game called. You have
I
to
won't.
just say it. Okay.
It's number 1.
Yeah.
Nothing little about it.
The biggie.
Yeah. This is Divinity Original Sin 2.
Yeah, there
All right.
it is. This is why we want Tack on this.
This game is just absolutely incredible. Larian Studios deserves to take a bow. It is just astonishing what you can do in that game. And, there was a lot of freedom in the first one, but they've just gone way above what they could ever accomplish in the second game. Just like they actually have like a great character banter. It's not all like just jokes and carried by the combat. Now it's like there's a story, there's interaction. I want to find out more about the characters. I want to do the quests, and you can do it any way you want. It's just like you go in there, the guy doesn't agree with you, you kill him. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You can do that, or you can try to talk your way out of fights. There's so many different ways to approach the same problems. It's fascinating. Oh my gosh.
Peak old school computer RPG.
Absolutely. And done in a way that it doesn't feel like I can't go back and play Baldur's Gate 2 now, right? It just feels, despite the game being amazing at the time, and I remember being blown away when I first played it, it feels its age at this point, right?
Yeah.
So I like to say that this is what it would look like if a modern day interpretation of one of those old school PC RPGs was created today. And it's just like, it's fantastic.
I hate to cut you off. I think we need to get that bald guy Joe Juba down here. I think he's got some critiques for it. No,
I'm sure he does. Maybe if he
Wait,
plays
does
past
he
the
not
first,
like it?
yeah.
He was a little skeptical about it, and he let Dan know on the podcast, and commenters did not care for that.
Okay.
Baldy is what the community calls him.
I'm
the
sure.
balls
I'm
fans.
sure he had good critiques, but he was very early on in the game, as I recall as well.
Absolutely. the
It's
case.
approachable for somebody new, somebody who doesn't play a ton of those games.
It's as far as PC RPGs go, it is approachable, but it does involve pretty strategical tactical combat. However, there's a low difficulty setting I'd recommend anybody getting into the genre should use.
Yeah.
It's you should be able to handle it.
It's an interesting moment, like going into that top 50 discussion at Game Informer, and everybody spent a minute like talking about like, hey, what's your favorite game of the year? And it came to Tack, and he's like, oh, Divinity 2, and like spent 2 minutes like explaining why. Then we moved on and never taled about Divinity 2 again. It's you're the only one who's played it.
This year had so many incredible games that I think we picked a great one, mind you.
Yeah.
I didn't play it, but it was a great
Sure.
one.
And I know like a couple other people have started Divinity Original Sin too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. Like Joe.
Yeah, Joe started it and said this is worse than hell.
Yeah, it really boggles me that such some RPG buffs are down on it. But like everyone's got their own opinion. I think it's amazing and one of the best PC RPGs ever made.
It's interesting that also this year Torment came out, and like Matt Miller's a huge fan of Torment for slightly different reasons, but also a throwback kind of CRPG style, and he strongly prefers Torment, whereas it's one of the
Torment more of a story-based experience, way more so. Divinity's still very, while it has a much more compelling story and ways to interact with outside of combat, it is still a very combat-oriented, tactically combat-oriented RPG for sure.
Yeah. Badass. Ben Reeves, number 1, dude.
This is it. This is the big one, guys. Big red one.
Yep.
It's Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The correct choice, I think.
Great choice.
There it is.
Leo
Very
Vader.
good choice.
A little game called
I thought we weren't allowed to do that anymore.
Leo is.
Heat Signature.
Oh, it is a little game.
I'm going to go with a little game called Breath of the Little Wild, Legend of Zelda. Number 1 game of the year for me. Unexpected. But again, it's a weird trend just this year overall, and maybe specifically like in my top 3. Just it feels like an overall trend of certain key games just nailing the sense of freedom that is so refreshing.
Sure.
Between Breath of the Wild, Battlegrounds, and Mario Odyssey. And especially with Battlegrounds and Breath of the Wild, 2 very different games, obviously, but 2 games where I played and I was like, yes, you idiots. This is all I want from gaming. Make more games like this. Relatively simple in some key ways. Amazing. Guys, 2017.
It's a really good year.
Crazy year.
I miss it already.
We're not going to have another year that good. It's just like, not for a while.
I don't know about that.
I mean, I think it's debatable. I could see it going good
Ever.
4 or 5 years.
I didn't mean
before
ever.
we have
Sure.
another-
Yeah, I meant like 2018 is not going to be that good, right?
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like, it's just like not possible.
Well, we'll see.
We'll
A
see.
lot of
We're
fun stuff
hoping,
on the horizon.
But man, like that's
Wait, Horizon?
Yep, Horizon 2 is
Oh, no.
coming.
hey.
Hey.
Absolutely amazing, you guys. All right, and that's it for this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have a whole new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.